January 2022 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. And I just want to welcome everybody. Let's run through our members that we're all here, please. Meg Yergin, you're here.
Here.
Greta, you're here.
Yes.
Okay. Robin
Yep.
Kramer. Okay. I'm Dave Neufeld. I'm here. And Brian Gladstein is recuperating from some procedure things, so he will not be here this evening. Also, we have Brittany O'Neill, and I don't know, is someone here from the building department?
Dennis is not here at the moment.
Dennis is not here, and Charlie Gottlieb. Charles is our counsel, and he is here. I believe we covered everybody on that. Okay, just very quickly, the procedure that we follow tonight, for those of you attending the meeting, is that we will be doing public hearings on some applications, at which point, if you're the applicant, you'll present your position to the board. At that point, respond to questions from the board, not to others. If you're here on a matter that's been adjourned, please understand the board will have been at the meeting. If not, they will have listened to the meeting and seen the paperwork. So don't repeat everything, because that makes it unfair to others, because you'll just cut off other people because we'll be too late. And the board has your submissions. Public can comment on these after the applicant speaks. The board may ask questions, and then members of the public, please speak up and you can ask questions of the board. Do not ask questions of the applicant. We can then ask them if they're appropriate. I want to make it clear, no deliberations on any application are made during the hearing. At the end of the hearing, either when it's closed or if it's adjourned, but when the hearing is finally closed, which can be the same day or it can be another day, after that, the board will deliberate. It will not usually deliberate the same day, but usually the following month. I would say the matters on for this evening that are public hearings that are closed will probably be dealt with and decided next month. When we are deliberating, please bear in mind, you can't comment. It's not allowed. You're not allowed to. Basically, everything has been presented and then the board will deliberate on those matters, okay? And let me begin by pointing out there's one member not here tonight, and that's Brian Gladstein. It's been the practice of the board historically that since you need 3 votes to gain to win or to gain a resolution, 3 of the 5 members, even if there's only 4 people or 3 people here, you still need 3. So we do afford the people the right to request, and we usually grant, but request an adjournment if you want to have the full board here, because we don't have the full board here. I will say that for new matters coming on tonight, I expect Mr. Gladstein will be here at the next meeting in February, and will have had an opportunity to, instead of watching something good on television, he will get to watch this. And he will watch this at his house and where have you. So is there anybody here who wants to avail themselves of a request for an adjournment? If not, we will continue. Change your mind, we'll deal with it later on. Okay, we're going to start with the continued public hearings. And again, I would just ask this, please, to try to avoid, I know it's difficult sometimes, but just try to avoid repeating the board heard it. Usually if they're adjourned, they've been adjourned for a particular reason, and we don't want to really go over it all again. It'll lose itself on that. Now, the first matter on this evening is, excuse me, it's very difficult working remotely. It's the 524, 532, and 442 Waverly Avenue application. This is an application for variances and for an area variance for the use of storage equipment outside. We had this matter on, just my notes, last time. We received materials. One of the questions that came up last time was whether it's an area variance or a use variance, and the applicant addressed that. The board at that point decided that it would deal with that during deliberations after the hearing is closed. If it's an area variance, it would proceed then to consider it because that's what the applicant applied for. If for some reason the board decided, no, it needs a use variance, that's a different standard. And then the applicant will have an opportunity to come back and make that application. The applicant also had undertaken at last meeting to provide certain materials, certain dimensions and details, and we did receive those from the applicant. So I believe we received a memo and specifications of the items that are to be stored. We received that. It was filed December 28th. And we received I guess what they call a site plan of really more of a location of where things are. on the site. Okay. The applicant here? Okay. That was a
Yes.
nice. The applicant is here?
Yep,
Can we let the applicant in or?
I just promoted him.
Okay. That's very good of you. Hello, applicant.
Let's see if he can.
One thing, while we're waiting for that. No, we'll do it later.
Okay, I am here. Can you hear me?
I can see you as well, Mr. Morrow. How
Okay.
are you?
Hi, Happy New Year.
See you as well.
I think, I hope with also on or Joe Hill and maybe TJ Milo, if, I don't know if Brittany
Oh,
can see them.
Thomas Milo, yes.
Yes,
but
he's one of ours, and there's
I
a,
have a couple with the name is not clear.
well, Joe Hill, is it a 203 area code? Does it say?
No, nothing like that.
Okay, well, they should raise their hand if they're on this.
Yeah.
Can I hear us? There's TJ. So, if I may speak or?
Please, by all means.
Oh, okay. So, following your admonition, we have nothing to add to the application. We've, as you know, this is our third visit. We've provided, we've addressed the area use variance issue via the submission that you accepted at the last meeting. And then we presented a further information on the specifications of the potential equipment that would be stored if granted. And we have slightly amended to the pre-existing site plan, it's not, but we did locate the potential for the gas. Of course, that would be subject to the village. So we have nothing new to present other than what we've already presented. So we don't have anything to add to the application.
Okay. I just had one question. I saw there was a question that came up the last time. Forgive me, I'm looking at another screen. That's why I'm trying to not being rude by looking away from you, Paul. But there was something about the, I'm just give me one moment to just expand it. On where the trucks are, the delivery trucks, and where the machines are, they've laid them out on the site, right? That's the one you gave us now. But there's no dimensions on it. And those trucks, particularly the first two trucks, look like that would be some event to try to squeeze in there. And I'm just trying to understand if we could get that. The big question was how, what size are those things?
Okay, on the submission, it's the size of the trucks that, you're talking about the trucks that'll be bringing the generators in and out?
It says delivery trucks, TYP, I assume typical on this. There's 5 of them, I believe.
All right, the size of the truck is a Ford F-250, or it's called a rollback truck, which is a small flatbed truck commonly used by towing companies. And that's that's part of the December 13th letter from Sunbelt addressing the size of the trucks. That did come up at the last meeting.
Right. Oh, the size was mentioned on there?
Yes.
I
Yes.
must have missed it. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's in the cover. It's on the first page of the letter from Sunbelt, and then attached to that letter all the specifications.
Right.
So it's a small flatbed truck that we're bringing them in and out.
What is the size of the spaces for those trucks? See, if you look at the site plan that's been presented, the trucks seem to be, at least the first 2 trucks seem literally to be abutting each other.
I have to defer to TJ, Thomas Milo on that.
Okay.
Can you unmute TJ, Thomas on?
And I'm looking at the letter, Mr. Noto. It mentions the type of truck. It doesn't mention the size.
Hello?
Yeah.
Good
Go ahead,
evening.
Tom.
Hey, sir. How you doing? So could you repeat the question? You were kind of...
Yeah, very simple question. You have the trucks there specified on this new site, like a layout of the plan. I don't think it's a site plan, but it's whatever it is. And there are 5 of them. 2 of them are larger, 3 of them are smaller. I was just trying to get the dimensions of both the parking space and the trucks. Since those trucks seem to be some event to back those in. I'm just...
Most of the trucks really are the size of either a large pickup truck or maybe a tow truck that, that be commonly found from a tow company. Those are the general sizes of the trucks. But they're not, they're not 18 wheelers or anything like that.
No, a Ford F-250 is 232 inches long versus 80 inches wide, 78 inches high. So that'll give you a sense of what a Ford F-250 truck is. It has a towing capacity. I mean, so does it help you? That's the spec. It's not even that expensive. It's only $36,000.
David, the site plan that I'm looking at has all the trucks the same size. Is there a later site plan that has different
I
sizes?
believe so, yeah.
I
would
don't
think.
see it on the. in the
I pulled it
package.
off the system right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at the system now. That's what I just looked at. I just opened
We
it.
gave you a plan that's dated 12/13/21, which had, very few, Robin, it wouldn't be much different than the one you have. What we really did was located the
Yeah,
trash
12,
containment area.
12/13/21, Robin.
Yeah,
Mine doesn't seem
that's,
to have a date, so maybe it's the
Oh.
old one.
Yeah, it is on the
if you
bottom.
look to the bottom where it says site plan revisions down, that's where the date is.
Yeah, I know where the
At the bottom.
dates are, but
Robin, if you
mine
take a
does
look at
not have
the,
a date.
okay, I go to the agenda and then I punch in and it gives me a list of everything in the file. And I took the latest, the 2 items for December 28th, I believe, were uploaded.
Well, that's interesting. That's not how it shows up on mine, so it's very interesting. I don't have that.
What computer were you using?
So I'll go back through it. Maybe
While
I
you're
can-
taking a look at that, does anyone, and then take a look and I'll help you we can find that. Does anyone have any board member have any questions with regard to this?
Paul, I'm sorry, can I just ask, is Dominic related to this project? He
Yes,
keeps raising-
yes,
Okay,
Dominic Rena is,
okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's all. Thank you. Let me promote him.
If you could let him in, if he's there.
Yep.
Thank you.
Robin, on the, what I do, Robin, is I go to the agenda
Yep, I'm on the agenda.
and then the last 2 items are Waverly site plan, Sunbelt layout.
Yeah,
And
those are the
above
2 updated items.
Right. You see the very bottom one? That's the last item.
Yeah, but when I
That's-
go there, the agenda that I downloaded yesterday or the day before, I
Hmm.
downloaded the entire agenda yesterday or the day before and they're not there.
Oh, no,
Okay.
it's not. It doesn't. Yeah, you'd have to go to the individualized. That'll be mixed in. Let me see if I could send you the link.
Yeah. Well, Robin, if you just go to the Village of Mamaroneck and you go to our agenda on. as
That's
the
where I
board
went.
agenda,
I did. I
Okay.
downloaded it
And then
yesterday.
you, why not, download, I don't know. It's there now. I mean, I don't know because that's.
Yeah, you don't have to download it. If you just go to the first little, it looks like a bunch
can
of
just
white
hit it.
pages rather than download the PDF. It'll break it out for you.
I'll try. Let's try that.
Give that a
Let's-
quick try.
I could send you the link if I get there fast.
Now let me go to back to the village. I'm on the village.
Yeah,
Yeah, go
When
there,
you-
boards. I just, you can go to the boards and that'll have.
Yep, that's where I
For some
am.
reason, they divide up the agendas into pre, some date and post.
No, I
right?
know. That's not I'm just telling you, as I downloaded
Right.
yesterday or the day before.
I understand. you. Here you
so
go.
rather than the item that looks like a PDF, there's before that, there's little white pages. If
Oh,
you click
right,
that
right.
one
Need
and
the
then
white
click
one.
the address. Yep,
Correct.
that's the one
That's
that.
right,
Well, when
Jessica.
I don't know what you guys are looking at, but when I click on it, I get 2 choices. Online, which gives you the.
Yes.
Yes, you go to
That
online.
one.
You
That
go
one.
to online.
Okay.
Now
Is that-
click the address that you're looking at and it'll
Brittany is
break
now
out all
giving
the
us some
items.
extra- There you go.
All right, let's go see if it shows up there.
And it should be the last 2 items.
Okay. Yeah, but it's not on the download one, which is a problem.
Well, if
It's
you,
mixed
if you
in
click those
incorrectly.
items, it
now.
opens.
Yeah, it isn't. There's only one site plan on that one. Just as it's a problem if somebody downloads it. So just,
Okay.
Brittany, you have to
Yeah,
be
we'll
careful.
look into
Right now,
that.
just, if you just check, why don't you just click that and see if.
No,
that's-
I have it now, David, from that, but
Gotcha.
that's not what the second thing I'm saying, which is if you download the agenda, you don't get all those
I
documents.
understand. You said that, right? I understand.
You downloaded the agenda, it's a problem.
Right.
So I just let you know,
Gotcha. All right.
should know that.
Brittany, you're now on notice of that.
Got it.
Okay, perfect. I see it. Yep.
Does anyone else have any questions regarding this? No? Does anyone from the public, anyone here or attending that wants to add anything or have any questions, comments regarding this? Okay. That being the case, and the applicant has.
I
nothing-
do. I have a question. I'm
Please.
sorry. And you might have answered this the first time, Mr. Noto, and I just don't remember. In fact, you probably did, and I apologize if I don't remember the answer. It has to do with exhaust. So the trucks unload and then they park, right? They don't stay on.
They don't idle.
They're no, okay. And with respect to the equipment itself, they drop the equipment off, the equipment is parked, if you will call it, and then it sits there not on, just sitting there until the truck, that truck or another truck comes and picks it up and drives away. So the
That's
only
correct.
time there will be
Exhaust.
anything emitted from this property is when the truck is driving, unloading and loading, correct? There's no other occasion for emissions of any kind.
No.
Okay,
Yeah, these things will not be used on site. These will be taken off site and used elsewhere.
no, I understood that. I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't somehow something else that was happening.
Yeah.
There's no leftover, it doesn't then process anything.
No. Understood.
Anyone else have any questions? Anyone from the public have any questions? Okay, if not, is there an application to close?
I move to close.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, let's take a vote on that. Meg?
Yes, I say yes.
Greta?
Yes.
Okay, Robin?
Yep.
And I'll vote for that. So the hearing is closed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your
Thank you. Have a nice
consideration.
evening, Mr. You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Would you get my phone, please?
Is that TJ talking?
Okay, the next matter on this evening is 1258 East Boston Post Road. And it's a continuation of the hearing regarding Toyota. At the last meeting, the applicant was going to, a few items came up. One of the issues was the applicant was going to get us additional information regarding certain configurations. And also the issue, I believe, came up concerning special permits that exist now. And we did receive some information on that. File out here. And I must say, I miss being present at a meeting. I find it to be much more complicated moving papers around here. I don't know why. It should be easier, but it doesn't seem to be. Is the applicant here?
I am here, Mr. Neufeld.
Oh, good. Good evening. Okay.
For the record, Leo Napier on behalf of the applicant.
Right.
Um,
Now, I believe we did receive, did we not, that there are permits at this time, correct? Are special permits in existence?
There are special permits for the other two Toyota lots that are not part of this application, but yes, we did provide the backup.
Right. And I think one of the issues that came up was whether or not you'd have to amend, or because we don't usually do separate permits for different aspects of the same application.
Well, so those two lots have their own individual permits, and as set forth in our letter, for a variety of reasons, the applicant would prefer to keep this property separate as well.
What were the reasons for that, just for the record, so you could explain that?
They're separate building lots, tax lots, and while they are currently under common ownership, in the future they may not be. So in order to avoid a severance of the uses and permits and needing to come back in if one of the properties was sold off or transferred, they prefer to be treated individually and have their standalone approvals. And I think we have a site, we meet all the special permit requirements for the site as a standalone auto sales use.
So that would make this, so this does not rely upon or interchange with any other portion of the operation of Toyota there? Because I'm confused on that. See, on one hand, I understand what you're saying, it's standalone. And on the other hand, I think much of the presentation was how they interrelate.
The current operation, while they're in common ownership and under common control, inevitably, I'm sure there will be some interplay between the three. But just like when 1305 was approved by the board, that had its own standalone special permit. When 1312 received its special permit, there was no kind of global special permit that was issued. And so this site has its own standalone building, its own curb cut, its own parking requirements, screening requirements, et cetera.
And this is, if I'm correct, is this not for the sale of used vehicles?
It will be both used and new, or new and used, however you'd like to put it. It'll have a showroom on it. And there'll be new.
And the
vehicles.
showroom, well, I would imagine you can have a showroom for used as well as for new, but this will be for both. In other words, the showroom would be for both?
Typically, it would be the new cars are kept inside the showroom, so it'll be following standard procedure. There's usually new cars inside and used cars are out on the lot.
Okay, because I noticed on the plan you submitted to us, it's called the new car sales office. Right?
Yes, on the building, you're saying?
That's, well, yeah, but it's part of your special permit application, right? It covers that property.
I don't believe that was intended to just say for new car sales. It's a new building for car sales.
Well, it says the words exactly, so we're not confusing each other. It's new car sales office, Toyota City. That is the, I'm reading it.
I'm not sure what, I have proposed building and I have car sales office. My screen.
Do you have the proposed plan? That's a proposed layout plan dated, give me 1 second, I have to just enlarge this on the screen. It's dated, it's July 31. I thought this just came, this is just logged on. This was just put on. But it's the one on the application. It's the one that was sent over with the, it was one that was sent over with a letter of December 23, 2021 from you, which you sent to the board. Am I correct on that?
I am looking at that plan.
Okay, so that plan attached to it, at least the one uploaded, has on the top left.
Yes, okay, in the title block, I apologize. I can, it's not just gonna be office space, that we had previously submitted a floor plan that shows the interior layout of the building, restroom, office area, and showroom space.
Now, across the street, you sell new cars as well, correct?
Yes,
Or Toyota does. Now,
yes.
if somebody, is it handled differently if somebody buys on this side? Is it an east-west concept or is it all the same?
They're generally treated, they're all in the common ownership, so yes, I mean, the properties are all used by Toyota City.
So what would there be a problem with treating this as an amendment or supplemental aspect of the other?
The issue there is, I don't believe there's a necessity to join the three, and then if there were a sale of one of those lots at a separate point in time, arguably it would upset the approval on this lot and would then trigger a requirement to bring this lot back in front of the board to amend its approval again. And I don't believe there's any necessity to have all three combined.
Dave, I have a question.
Please, Mayor.
Will the sales be finalized in the lot that's under our review right now? Or will all the sales be finalized across the street?
There is a sales office proposed in the building here.
I understand, but when I've gone to purchase a car, lease a car, I often talk to somebody at one desk and we talk about the different options and we even negotiate a price. And then I'm often led to another building where we go into the financing and all the papers that I have to sign are printed out. So they're not always done in the same location. So I feel that, is that the way it's going to be set up? Do you have in this sales office the ability to complete the entire transaction, including the financing and all the other commitments that need to be signed on this lot that's under question? Or is there some use of the space across the street to complete the sales transaction?
The building is designed to have the capability to complete a sales transaction here. In practice, I don't know, I don't think anyone has thought that far down the road as to how that will work logistically, but certainly there is office space here. The sales associates are usually on the floor. They may have a desk in the sales space. There is a separate office space that's designated in this building, which could be for financing or for the office manager, et cetera.
But you don't have a confirm, you couldn't confirm whether or not that's how it's going to be set up, that you're going to transact the entire sale on the spot.
No, they're going to be, I think what they're saying is, Meg, it's a good point you're making. I mean, they overlap. I mean, I would imagine that the way you operate, because we talked about it, people could, they could do the transaction at either place. It would be dependent upon Toyota, how it wants to do it, the owner, right?
Correct.
So for me, if all sales are going to be finalized, and actually the actual sale where you put your signature on what you agree to pay for and the financial terms are done across the street, I feel that's where the sale happened. So then I would say that there's no sales happening. There are preliminary negotiations and review. So it becomes more of a storage lot for the sales that are happening across the street. It is not a place where sales are transacted.
Well, I think
that's what we were thinking about. Is this
Yeah.
a storage facility for a different business? Or is it a standalone
I think-
where there's discrete sales and then they sell the used cars that were turned in for the discrete sales that are on that lot?
So
Another way to think about it, it seems to me is, look, if the other two businesses shut down, would this business continue to operate as it is, freestanding without resort to all of those? And if the answer is it wouldn't, that's different than if the answer is it would.
Sorry, Robin, that's not exactly what I'm asking.
I understand that.
I'm
You're
sorry.
asking us like
If I could just finish what I
let the
was
applicant
asking.
answer the question, please. Let the
I
applicant
was
answer the
talking
question.
to the attorney. I want to know what this business model is. I'm not saying that there isn't a parking lot and there isn't a bathroom and there isn't an office and it could be set up a certain way. What I want to know is how Toyota plans, or the owners of this Toyota dealership plans to operate this business model, not what it's capable of doing, but how it intends to operate this business model, how it is going to be using this lot. So I'm not asking, could you exist all by yourself if the others went away? I'm asking, what is the business model? Will the sales be finalized on this lot?
Certainly, if that's a condition of the approval, then the answer is yes, the sales could be consummated on this lot. And I guess my point is that's not how the other two properties were treated. Obviously, the big one across the street, the main lot, is kind of a standalone entity, but for 1312, it receives its own standalone special permit use. And if down the road this is turned into a Tesla lot and isn't part of the Toyota City, it's equipped and set up in such a way that it could function on its own.
But that would have to
And if
be,
it's a concern for Toyota City that sales need to be consummated on this lot, then yes, I can represent that, yes, and I understand that would be a condition of approval.
okay, just two quick things. Sir, if that's the case, if you were going to turn that into a different operation, that would require a different sale, a new special permit, because they don't run with the land, they run with the operator. Mr. Charlie, is that correct?
That's correct.
Right, okay. So now, is it fair to say, though, that you have people in this proposed building and somebody wants to buy a vehicle? And I just want to clear this up because I think Meg's raised this and Robin has. If somebody's in these buildings and they want to see a car across the street, the salespeople walk across the street. They're free to do that, aren't they? They're all employed. They're all part of the same operation, right?
Yes, although I don't know if they would walk them across the street or just send them to a different sales associate.
Oh, so you mean the salespeople they don't go across the street at all?
I don't know, Mr. Neufeld. We're delving into aspects of the business that don't have so much to do with the special permit conditions. So I haven't.
I think they have a lot to do with it, but that's my view, but I could be wrong. I'm told that I am sometimes and hopefully I'm not sometimes, but okay. I think that the question that's coming up here is this standalone base. This is all one operation. There's no service. If somebody needs to prep the vehicles or service the vehicles, they don't do it on this side of the street, do they?
There will be no service here.
Right. They would go across the street, right?
I'm not sure if there's a service facility across the street either.
So there
I
was.
think service is off-site. Toyota service bays are nowhere in this area.
Oh, there's no service across the street?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay, all right. The other question, just to jump to for a moment, is the number of parking spots here. Now, you have on the one says 5 spots are for customer parking. And then, you have 10 spots for customer parking, right?
From our last meeting, yes, we had the architect update the plan.
So how do we handle the people who are parked behind those, the cars that are parked behind there? So for example, you have this 5 spots on the one side, I guess the northerly side. And behind it, there are 21 spots.
So you have car jockeys, essentially the sales staff are used to moving cars around. We're not out in Long Island where you have massive lots for car dealerships or down south. It's no different than how the car dealerships operate. Ride Ford, for example, I had it, I can't share my screen right now, but if you look at an aerial of Ride Ford, you essentially have a lot full of cars, and when somebody wants a specific car, it's someone's job to jockey cars around. If a customer's parked in the way of getting a car moved out, then they would have to speak to that customer and ask them to move their car in order to gain access to the cars that are in the back rows.
Well, as I see it, unless I'm missing something here, every one of the 5 spots that I see on the westerly side, the ones that are running, I suppose, with east-west, they would all be blocking the 21 spots behind them, right? If they were parked in there.
Yes,
Right. So you said if somebody went, so basically the only way to get those cars out is basically to have those cars moved. They're not really parking spaces. Then they'd have to move them and relocate. So somebody could take the car out and you'd be jockeying to get, let's say, 3 cars behind them. Right. I see.
correct. You'd have to jockey the cars even if there was no one parked in those 5 spaces and somebody wanted a car that was all the way in the back row. I mean, that's the nature of a car dealership.
Okay. I'm sorry, any board members have any questions regarding this?
Yeah, I have a question. If you find that at a certain time, when you're trading in a car and you sell a new car and you're trading in getting a used car, and you find that one location really has doesn't have any more room to store the used cars, but other locations do have the room to store the used cars, would you then be taking those used cars and storing that at other locations that have that availability?
Presently, yes, there's an off-site lot that's also owned by Toyota City that's not in the village of Mamaroneck that is spillover storage for the uses here. So the answer to that question is yes, the current operator has the capability of doing that.
Oh, but you wouldn't, if it was across the street, if you had some space across the street, you wouldn't store it across the street. You would store it in a location that's not in Mamaroneck? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying the operator has the capability of moving cars off-site if there is excess vehicles on site. Whether that's to the other 2 lots or to their storage lot, I think is in New Rochelle. It's on Weaver Street, I believe. The current operator has the capability to do that.
I think that's a good point, because if they're going to be storing them across the street, then they are interrelated sites, and then there should be one special permit for all. If they're not going to be storing them across the street, that's a different issue. So it seems to me that's part of the question of going to, Greta raised a good point about that. And
Right. I guess that's one of the issues we'll take up on deliberation, but Robin, I'm sorry, I mean to cut you off. If you have any, because but go ahead. You have another
no, go ahead.
question?
No, I'm done. I just
I think to follow up on what Robin just said, where I was going to ask is, I'm a little confused on one aspect. We're selling on the other side of the street. Do they sell new and used as well, or just new or just used?
They sell new and used on both existing lots.
Okay, so I want to buy a new car, for example. Hypothetically, somebody goes by to see a new car. There's the Toyota sign on both sides, right? I just don't, I'm not able right now, at least, I'm not sure I understand the distinction which is I think what Robin and Greta have been saying. So I want a new car. Does it matter if I go to the one side? Does that mean I can only get what's there, or do I then get to go to the other side? But then you're telling me maybe the salesman or the saleswoman doesn't come across. So what happens then? I mean, it seems to me this is one operation. I'm just trying to understand it from your standpoint. Because
So
if they're
from our
both
standpoint-
selling new and used cars, and I need a new Toyota, and I'm gonna pull up there, I'm gonna have a dilemma.
The current approvals for the other two lots are standalone individual permits. We're asking for this to be treated as a standalone individual permit. Respectfully, the special permit requirements talk about the location and size of the lot, the intensity of the traffic use, the screening, hours of operation. It's not so much the operation itself. You know, I even if this was a standalone operation, the fact that there may be some interrelation between the three properties, I don't think triggers this into becoming a. We're essentially merging those three properties into one, which is what we're trying to avoid.
No, I'm not, you're not merging
In
properties.
theory, if this lot got, in theory, if we lost control, if I merged this lot into the other two and we lost control of this lot, it would trigger a reapproval for the other two lots.
Let's be clear on something. It's not a merger of property. I haven't heard anybody suggest you're merging or covenanting to keep properties together. It's the operation that we're talking about. That's what a special permit is for. The special permit is to enable, it's a special permit for a particular operation. So somebody comes in and they've got a bookstore, and then I'm going to hear, well, we have the children book special permit, we have the adult book special permit, we have the fiction, the nonfiction. In essence, it's one operation here. It's just it's spread out. It's big. There are big places. There are many bigger places in this, both for cars and non-cars. And so my point is, I'm not. And if you go to sell, then you have to just amend the permit to get rid of the part that you got rid of. But so I'm not following that, because to me it's an operation, and the operation here that's operating is the car service. I've never seen it broken up like this, but you may be right. We'll deal with that after the hearing, I suppose. But
and I guess my
are there bathrooms in here?
There is.
And from your standpoint, when you say standalone, this will be a completely independent functioning aspect, other than the sales may all be interrelated. But conceptually, the building itself, right?
Yes.
And this is all the cars that side will have to sell will be those that are available, will be in the 21 spots and in the, I guess, the 35. Was it 45 parking stalls only? What is that? 45 means what? A 30, oh, sorry. So 35 is for the vehicles, right?
Storage, yes.
Right. So that's the inventory.
Yes, I think there's another two, they're not included in our parking count, but the showroom's capable of having another couple cars inside there as well.
So I think much of the confusion is that if I'm over there and I say, I see a nicer color that I want across the street,
There's nothing that stops you from walking across the street,
and nothing that stops the salesman or the salesperson from coming across, right?
other than you can't leave the sales room unstaffed.
That's a valid point. And that would be true the other way as well, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Anyone from any other board member have any questions now? Does anyone from the public have any questions? Okay. Do you have anything you want to add, sir?
No, I think we've revised the plans.
Okay. Okay. You want a motion on this? Motion to close this hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Is there a second on that?
I'll second.
Meg?
Yes.
Okay, Greta?
Yep.
Robin?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes too. The hearing is closed. Thank you very much.
Just so I understand
Happy New Year.
process. I'm sorry, so I understand process, you deliberate at your next meeting or later tonight?
Probably at the next meeting.
Okay,
I mean, I can't tell that. My crystal ball's broken right now, but I would venture to say it's usually the next meeting. Sometimes 2 meetings from now, but we try to do it by the next meeting. I mean,
understood.
not by, but at.
And then motions for resolutions would be at that same meeting following deliberation, or that's another meeting after that?
No, the deliberations usually, well, it really is dependent. First of all, we have 2 more months, but usually, as a matter of practice, they'll deliberate, and then if we deliberate and there's conditions, et cetera, we will sometimes wait to actually pass the resolution until it's drafted for us.
At the following meeting.
There's some
Okay.
some crazy cases that basically don't require that, but that's been our practice. Because if we try to do conditions and they're all verbal, they get a little confusing. But, no, we kind of take that up. Okay, super. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening. Okay. The next matter on the agenda tonight is 533 Walton Avenue. Okay. Maybe I'll stop liking paper when I think about the trees. Is the applicant here on this? Applicant's not here. Okay, maybe, you know what? I wonder if we asked the applicant to
He's
be here.
here.
Oh, the
No,
applicant.
he's here. I'm just, it takes a moment for him to load.
All right. We won't tell him you said that.
I heard it. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Good evening. I think what would be helpful is and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
You did discuss the variances. I saw you made a submission on that. You went over,
Yeah,
you made a submission on December 16th regarding that. What variances were required, and you actually gave us another application, I believe, but I think it didn't change the substance of anything to my knowledge. And there is a survey you gave us as well. I've seen. Just give me a second. You know, I wonder if this bothers people, but there's a large zoning board that meets in the town of Brookhaven, which is a very large town, and they all sit there on this dais thing with all these computers. And it's sort of like very strange when you're talking to them because they're all doing this and you're over here. I don't mean to be rude. I found that unnerving. All right, let's see what we got here. So let me just pull that up if I may, so we have it. Does anyone else complain, Brittany, that every time I go to push it, I get the Board of Architectural Review issue instead?
Haven't heard that one. I
They
wouldn't be
don't,
surprised.
they're not equal. It's sort of, they're between the two, but okay.
I'm not in love with that website, but
It's the little icon for the thing, sometimes
it doesn't, it goes
It's
right
off
in
of it,
between.
right.
Yeah.
Right, it can be off a bit. Every time I go, what's this? This is on the agenda? That's what I did earlier. I didn't know. What is this about? I've even seen that before. Oh, okay, it's architecture review. Okay, so it does reflect the filings on December 28th of a host of items, applications, building application, owner certification, etc. Okay. Yeah, I think we've kind of know this property. It is what I would call unique and unusual. I don't live that far from it, and from the time I moved here, when I first moved here, I should say, I went up to the owner one day and I said, wow, how'd they ever develop this thing? How'd they ever build this? It's sort of strange when you see it, but interesting. So do you have anything you want to present, or should we just go right to the board asking you questions if they have any?
yeah. If I maybe show the updated site.
By all means, sir. That's why I asked.
We actually specifying a bit more or declaring.
And thank you. And by the way, your cover letter was very helpful. It explained things very clearly.
Say it again?
I say your cover letter. I believe that was your letter of.
Yeah, there was.
Thank you. That was helpful. That was very clear.
The cover letter, and also we then got later on a letter also from the town of, from the building department in
Right.
specifying the same thing. I mean, we are asking, in principle, we're asking for 3 variances. And in the last previous meetings, we had the one where we declared about the coverage, where we actually running right now at it's allowed 35%, and we have currently 40. And with the kitchen addition, we would add another 2%, which would bring us to 42.8%. So that was the one variance we're asking for. And then the 2 other variances are more defined now or specified in reference to the steps and landing. And for that purpose, can you see the site plan?
Yeah.
Okay, and this is basically the area where we talk about the stair with landing, and on the on the, let me just see, on the upper side here, on the side plan, I was enlarging it, which really gives the more detailed dimensions. And in reference to the side plan, you can see obviously that the buildable area is very minute from front yard and the left or the side yard at B, which this whole stair would really need the variances.
Is that,
Yeah.
sir, if I can interrupt you, is that I'm sorry to interrupt you, is that I'm looking for it on the system. Is that December 1st that you submitted? It's a November 5th plan, or is that a later one?
No, this is basically the same. The site plan is the same, literally
Right.
information. All what I did on the site plan is showing the bigger enlargement.
Right, okay,
To go into more a clearer picture.
right.
So
Thank you.
the one variance for landing and stair is the front yard.
Yeah.
We have currently the setback for the steps here. That's basically 20.7 feet. And obviously we would need, because it's a 25-foot front yard, we would need a variance of 12.3 feet. The side yard is 15 feet required, and we have a setback actually on the stair as 1.25. So we would need a variance of 13.75 feet.
Right.
But that's really the specification from the last meeting. In particular, the stair landing where it wasn't clear, and this is more defined now.
Right. And your photographs are very good. You have a nice aerial here that shows what I call the island. Do any members of the board have any questions?
I have one question because I was a little confused about something. When was this building built? Did we have any information about when this was built?
Yeah, I can tell you this in a second. That building was built in, just go back to the, what is that, this building. That here. Have it written in the description here. The owner acquired it in 2016, but the building goes back to the 1950s.
Okay, so this, if I'm correct,
Yeah.
since we had zoning way before the 1950s
Yeah.
in Mamaroneck, when this building was built, it didn't comply with the code at the time it was built. So it isn't a permitted, non-conforming use because it was never in compliant with the code.
No.
Okay,
Oh, so it's a non-conforming.
but it's not non-conforming. It was never in, it wasn't non-complete. It did never
It's not
conform.
legal.
It's not
Did we-
legal.
It's
Do
a
we have
non-conforming.
a copy of the, do we know what the code was in the 1950s to confirm that? I mean, what are we basing that assumption on, what the
Yeah, I have no idea.
requirements were in 1950 for this lot?
They would never have, basing it on, I guess you say common sense, that it is very unlikely that the code at any point in time would have allowed some of these lack of setbacks, lack of distances, etc. We haven't changed in some ways the code all that much, although I don't know where I used to have a lot of.
Yeah.
I used to have a
And
lot
then
of
even
old
if
versions
it,
of the code.
even if it didn't comply,
Yeah, just so we're,
right,
that
even
area
if
of
it didn't
Oriana.
comply, it could have gotten variances at the time. We're making some assumptions that are, there
Yeah.
are good thoughts to think about, but that we have the facts to know what was the situation when it was built.
Yeah, I think we can say it's non-conforming. We don't know what it, I will say this, though, that you should all know, if some of you may not be aware of this, but Oriana at one point, and I learned this from someone who lived here, And before they moved out, they said to me, they had been here since a child. And I said, oh, and they said, yeah, this used to be all little mini cottages. And people would come up from the city and they would rent them or buy them. So the whole area, if you take a look, some of the side streets still have those little cottages, and there's a few left on Rushmore that are small and very undersized. So it might have been, I just, but we don't know.
But may I also say something very quick? My client also informed me when he bought the property in 2016, he actually, knowing about obviously the lot size and where the house is, he actually approached the town, and he would approach them basically to buy more property around the house to make it more, if you want to say in the zoning or in the requirements, more in line. Though the town turned them down to do that. But he offered goodwill to do that. Just as
this way, he has it for nothing, right? I mean, honestly, I understand that happens occasionally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's no one's going to use that property. It's
no.
I've seen this house. I've lived here for about 35 years, and when I saw it, more than that actually, and when I saw this house, when I saw the survey, I went, wow. But that happens. It's not common, but it's. I lived adjacent to 14 acres in Huntington, New York, and the people never wanted to develop the 14 acres, and they said use it, and our whole yard went into it. People used to comment, "What a huge yard I have." I said, "Well, yeah." Okay. Any other questions? Does anyone have any questions? But excuse me, sir, you did say one thing. You said that it was non-conforming. Did you look into the history at all to find out anything that might help Ms. Kramer's question or provide an answer?
Say it again, please. I didn't know.
Did you look into it? I thought you had said it was non-conforming. So my question is, how did you ascertain it was non-conforming or conforming?
No, I mean, I'm just going by a guesstimate, but it's basically on all the CFOs we have received, they have all, basically approved it as applicable to zoning.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's the interesting part, okay? So,
sure.
And going back, actually, let me just see, I see it here. It goes back to the original, just give me a second here, to well,
There is a certificate of occupancy dated March 2016.
yeah, I'm looking at that right now, and that goes, that's
And there's one dated, wasn't there another one? I thought that I saw another one, right? And if it was built in 2016, we know it's non-complying. So the question was there an older one? And if so, when it was built? That was the question. Clearly, if it was built in 2016, it was non-compliant.
But how does it get the CO? I mean, but it may have gotten variances or something. I don't know.
Or somebody didn't look at it, or the building department didn't look carefully.
In the file, there is actually on March 16, 2016, there is literally an official certificate of occupancy of a one-family dwelling on this property declared. Okay.
Right.
I have that document in the application as well.
Robin, they probably went out, looked at the house, scratched their head, and said, "Sure."
Probably. My guess is that if in fact it was built in 2016.
It wasn't built in 2016. That I can guarantee you.
Right. No, I understand that, even though the C of O says new building 2016. That's what I'm saying.
I see what you're saying. That's a good point. Huh?
And so we doubt that if it was built in 2016, it was clearly non-complying. The assumption about if it was built in the 50s is there's an assumption it was non-complying.
But on the other hand, the existence of a CO is almost a prima facie.
Right, that it's legal.
It's completely illegal.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to, we don't have the authority to overrule, I would say, but I understand.
I'm not planning on that. I mean,
I know. It's an interesting issue. That's why I use the word unique.
David, is that because I know is there a provision? I was wondering about that. Is there a provision? Certainly I don't think there's anything in the Mamaroneck code. Maybe there is, about a C of O being, essentially, as you said, prima facie rule that it is. Is there something, or is there something in state law? I mean, I only know of something in New York City, but that's in the code. So,
well, the question you come down to is there an estoppel issue, really? But
Well, there's no such thing as estoppel in.
Well, not usually.
So, but no, so my question is, does,
Okay,
actually, I'm just
that's
gonna
good.
look at that up now, see if the Mamaroneck code, if the village
Sure.
code says something about it. Out of curiosity, but we can go ahead without it, because whatever
Okay.
it is, we're not making it.
Yeah, exactly. We're not gonna make him move the house today.
No,
Maybe next week. Anyone else on the board have any questions? Is there anyone here from the public that has any questions? Sir, do you want to add anything? You can't subtract, but you can add.
That's the case I'm pleading, yeah.
All right, I mean, I think it's a tough one. It's a difficult situation, but it's understandable, and it's been there. And actually, you don't even have any adjacent neighbors. You have no, you're on your streets on every which side. Yeah. Okay. No one else has any inquiries? Is there a motion on this?
I'll motion to close.
Second, is there a second on this?
I'll second it.
Okay. Meg?
Yes.
Okay, Greta?
Yes.
Robin?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. So the hearing is closed. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much.
Have a good evening.
Chairman and board. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't see any.
Tough. Okay, 1 second. This is Walton. The next matter will be 911 Fairway Lane, Campilli, I believe I'm pronouncing it, I hope right. It's for an area variance with regard to a generator. Just give me 1 second to put this file away.
I did send the owner an email because I don't see her in the attendees list. I have not heard back yet.
You're not suggesting they abandoned their application, are you?
Doubt that.
Okay, so why don't we can just.
To the next application?
Let's go, yeah, I'll just go right to the next one. Just give me 1 second so I can get it. Oh. And then the other was 1 second. Okay. The next application is on 397 Palmer Avenue. It's a special permit application pursuant to 342-41-42-1 by 397 Palmer Avenue. I'm sorry, by who's the applicant?
Good evening, Chair.
It's XN Shen for Richin Inc. Good evening.
Good evening. You threw me for a curveball, members of the zoning board. I actually still have a spoon in my right hand as I was digging into ice cream, so I had to throw that thing back in the freezer. You're helping me out.
What
Thank you.
flavor?
Mint chocolate chip.
That's all right. That's good. You sprinkles or something fun?
Chocolate chips and extra coconut. Yeah. Anyway.
Let
Good
the
evening.
record reflect that you've eaten that and none of us have, and you haven't offered it to us. But that's all right. Now, with that in mind, please continue.
I got the proof.
All right.
Anyway, good evening, everyone. Andrew Spatz for the applicant, 650 Halsted Avenue, Suite 105. Happy and healthy New Year to everyone. Chair, members of zoning board, this is a fairly direct application. I believe my client previously filed last spring or early summer. There were a lot of issues with the application. She sought my assistance. I just want to make sure that Zhang Jing is on. Brittany, is there a way? I see Dennis Morgan.
I can promote her.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you. I just want to make sure that she's present. And until she is promoted, just so everyone understands, my client actually purchased a previously existing massage establishment located at that premises. This was done in May 2021. With regards to the actual professional building, A certificate of occupancy for the building was actually provided with my application that was filed back December 9th, 1958. It was issued. Since the professional building was built, the zoning for that particular area changed to an R2F, which is a 1-2 family residential area, which would make the building a previous existing, now non-conforming. There are other existing professional businesses located in this professional building, specifically a dentist and oral surgeon. They actually take the entire first floor. The applicant is fully licensed in the state of New York to practice massage therapy. The office space to be rented does have and satisfies the required parking, lighting, ventilation, so that it can safely be operated. It should be noted that across the street on Palmer, there are other commercial retail uses located. I think there's a small newsstand and other commercial uses. I provided pictures of that as well. And as the ZBA is aware, massage therapy is regulated as professional under Title 8 of Education Law, Section 7801. There's nothing in the village zoning code that defines applicants intended use otherwise. Chair, thank you for allowing us to file the certificates with the board recently. I was on the impression that we would file and do all the pedigree information with the local authorities after, in the event an approval was granted, because there is quite a bit of detail in that pedigree information with regards to Social Security.
Well, thank you. You did. Let the record reflect that you did provide the education department's
but we
and thank you.
And I applaud the zoning.
Did you provide anything other than the professional, the license?
Ms. Jurgen, at this point, Ms. Jin, only that what she provided me is what I shared with you. And I'm
just checking. I'm just checking if I missed it.
No, and then I anticipate in the event they add anyone else, I'm happy to say that our code is very, very thorough about the requirements. Anybody working there needs to provide fingerprints, needs to be registered with the village PD. It's vetted. So our code is very thorough with respect to assuring the safety, well-being, and the professional experience that the facility would have. So, and I reiterated the importance of that to the applicant. That is a very important. This is a professional building. This is a great community, and we need to adhere to all those provisions. So,
as do all special permit applicants.
Of course, but in particular, we understand the nature of the business. We understand some of the concerns, and as I said, as an attorney that not only works, has office here, I reside here, so we want to maintain a good reputation for the community.
And as far as the other requirements, for example, the requisite filing and the completion of other materials that have to be provided to, I guess, to the village or the police department.
Absolutely.
Those are all, but I didn't answer anything, but so I say, those will all be provided as a condition in the permit if they would. I can understand that you wouldn't do those until you had the permit. I would tell you, I mean.
Yes.
Okay.
We do have language in the code that says no permit shall be issued until something happens. Does that mean we could vote on it without it? Or does that mean we could still write that as a condition when the language actually says no permit shall be issued?
Where are we referring to on that, if you don't mind?
This is under 342-42.1, number 3. Some of the language is it shall not be established.
Contact phone numbers, yeah.
I'm sorry?
No, I see the phone numbers, the social security, the employees.
Others say the massage.
Yeah, I guess I read that as saying, otherwise, why would some, I mean, it'd be difficult, I would think, to go into the police department and say, hi, I'm here to give you this information about the employees that I don't employ. Or this, I mean, I think it was a fair read, at least, but I understand what you're saying, like literally that does say that, is that no operation could take place. The permit would not be effective. Maybe that's the way to deal with it.
Mhm.
I mean, I
Charlie,
think when
any input on that?
if we issue the special permit, if we approve a special permit for this use, then the special permit would be conditioned on the things that we're not having today. And unless and until those things, whatever those conditions were met, it wouldn't be, the fact that they had a piece of paper that we said something, if they don't comply with all the conditions, then this special permit shall automatically terminate or not be in
You could
effect.
also,
or
that's a
whatever.
good point, Robin. There's another way you could do it, I think, that maybe even more direct and Meg's concerned. And that would simply say this permit, which is granted, is not effective
Until, right,
as opposed to a condition. But
Right.
it's a spring of use. It's not effective until you do A, B, and C.
Right.
Then it becomes effective. Right.
it's a conditional use in the sense of,
It's a condition on the conditional use.
Even,
But I-
yes, and even the signage is required. As we found, we had another application that came to us and they never had put the sign in, and
Right.
there's actually a signage requirement, so that's all.
And Ms. Jurgen,
You couldn't put the sign in, could you? Because it says if you look at sub 4, all massage establishments shall have such and such. In fact, they can't have that until they are a massage establishment.
Right, I understand.
I'm
I'm just bringing up the fact that we have missed that in the village in the past, so.
Oh, I got you. Okay, no, I think what you're really saying, Meg, I guess the real point is, as Robin just brought up too, is that if the permit were to be granted, it would be only effective upon complete compliance with these operating conditions. You couldn't operate until. And the people who would know that best of anybody would be the people who are supposed to get this, which would be the village and the police department.
You would think.
also
So
Chair,
We have been operating for 2 years
So
without meeting these standards, so that gives me pause.
I have a
Please.
sort of a preliminary question, a more preliminary question,
Please.
which is, this is a non-conforming use because it's not, right? The use as the applicant says, didn't the applicant
The
say?
building is non-conforming.
Correct.
Right.
But the use is in the building. It's not, are we talking about the use or the structure? We're talking about the uses in the building, correct?
Well,
Correct.
both.
Right.
Would it be
But,
both?
but,
It would
but,
be, if the building without a use would be,
but my point is, building can be non-conforming with respect to physical structure, or it can be non-conforming with respect to use. You could take this building and convert it into an apartment building, and then you would be conforming, or maybe not. I don't know what the apartments are.
Right.
So, okay, but here's my concern. The first question that we haven't discussed, and we need to, is, so what the code says about non-conforming uses, because that's what this is, a non-conforming use of the building, shall not be altered, structured. We're not altering, extending, or structure, so that's fine. We're not, but we are altering it, which actually technically you've already altered. So any non-conforming use of a building shall not be changed to another non-conforming use, except where approved by the board after finding that the change will be to a less non-conforming use and one that will be more harmonious with the surrounding area. So I think we need to make that determination, either that it is the same. I know the C of O calls it a professional building, but I don't know what that means. Or that the change is to a less non-conforming use. And I think that's a preliminary that we need to determine before we can even grant this.
That's.
oh, but then we'll take that up if we could, excuse me. We'll take that up in the deliberation. I think what you're really saying, Robin, if I could, and I didn't mean to cut you off, Greta, but was that what is the non-conforming aspect? And as I see it, the non-conforming aspect is that its existence and use as a professional building or an office building, whatever it is what's the non-conformity. And to say that nobody else can come in and change it is effectively to say that it's a non-usable building. So, but we can take that up. I guess that is something. If the applicant wants to speak to it, he can, but.
I would like to ask the applicant, are you saying that this use is less non-conforming than the previous use or more harmonious with the area? As Robin.
Or the same,
had the text,
Right.
we would like to ask give
Ask him.
council the chance to tell us how they see this use. Is it less non-conforming, or is it more harmonious with the with the district now.
And I just, so you know, Mr. Spatz, I was reading 342-64B, just in case you were looking for the code reference.
Well, first, our code does define office building in the sense of a building occupied or used for business or professional offices of individuals, partnerships, associations, or corporations. And also, our code defines massage establishment. And based upon the fact that this is a professional building recognized back in 1958, although the zone around us changed, we're still consistent with the building's use as it's permitted today. Because again, like you pointed out, we're not expanding it, we're not changing the exterior, we're not seeking enlargement, we're merely replacing what was previously there, which was a previous massage facility, with a new one. So in essence, I believe it's a net zero. There's no difference in what was previously there before. So there is no net difference.
The previous one though didn't get a special permit. So was it a legal massage establishment? Can you say that? If I thought we saw in the parcel history that there was a complaint that it was
If you're getting,
without a special permit.
I don't know the exact legalities of what transpired before. I did foil the file, and unfortunately, that was when Omicron. It was difficult getting access to the file, but we did foil it so we could look through the entire file itself. So I don't know the lineage of what transpired. The landlord who I met with and spoke with in great depth did advise me that there was a previous establishment there. And as I indicated, on the entire first floor, it's a dental surgery, oral surgery, and cleaning hygienist on the first floor. So I would say that it is in harmony with the existing use of that building, especially in light of the fact that right directly across the street on Palmer, there are other businesses and retail establishments. We're on the cusp of the industrial area, as you know, that location. So I would say it's not exactly like being in in the middle of a residential area. So I think there's a mixed use sort of in that particular area.
It's across the street from that co-op apartments.
Yes.
Let me ask you, are they structurally changing the size of the space?
Absolutely, they're doing, and I'll let
just answer that, yes or no, that's all.
I don't believe so, no.
You know, it appears that this zoning change was in 1982. Can you advise whether there's been continual businesses in that office building since 1982?
Sandy, that's a good question. I can't, again, I did foil the
Can you
file.
Can you get
I could
information
ask the landlord. I mean, I could make that inquiry. Let me just see if I see anything in my notes from when I met with him with regards to ownership. And I don't believe he was the original. He definitely isn't the original owner. I think that
they've always used that as an office building, correct? Or for professional service?
Well, that's what, in fact, the 1958 certificate of occupancy, where is it? I believe defined. Yes, 1958 professional building by Burnhall Holding Corp. I mean, it didn't specify in terms of what the businesses were in there, but it did say it was a professional building.
But if it was vacant for a period of time, that might be important information for us.
I understand that. I understand what you're saying. No, I don't have the lineage in that regard.
Chair Board, this is Dennis Drogan, building inspector, or one of the building inspectors. There's always been a professional in that structure.
I'm sorry.
Since the very beginning, the intended use has always been used as a professional building. I can't stand for who it was, but I recall while looking through all the backlog, plus talking to the surrounding residents and also the people who made complaints, on the building prior about garbage and other issues that may have happened in the past. There's always been a professional there. The dental clinic, I believe, has been there for over 20 years. If that, I can definitely speak for. But, you know, going back, there's always been a professional office in that building.
It's never been an abandoned building.
Never vacant. Maybe a couple of days after the structure.
Thank you, Officer Drogan.
I wasn't there for that.
All right. And there's no structural changes being made, Mr. Spence, right?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay.
If you'd like my opinion on that as well, nothing is being altered inside their unit. Everything is keeping with the prior tenant of the prior tenant. So going back 2 tenants ago, there are no changes, no walls are being erected or down. They're keeping everything the way, ceiling plan, everything's exact.
Who's taking use 2 tenants ago? You mentioned 2 tenants ago. What was the use then?
In the whole building
In
the
whole area, there were professional offices that were in keeping with the last tenant.
I'm sorry, I thought the last tenant was the massage establishment. And about 2 tenants ago, I was just curious what the
So
tenant.
you're talking about this particular rental space or the building?
That particular rental space. What has come to my attention is that the last tenant made no changes to that floor as well. Everything is in keeping with the prior tenant. So that's, if this is one tenant now we're talking about who's looking for the special permit. The one past was a massage therapist or some type of business like that. And then prior to that, they were all professional medical offices. So it could have been a doctor's clinic. I don't recall what it is offhand or what it was.
Anyone else have any questions? Is there anyone here? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have a couple questions. So is this proposed massage business going to be on the second floor?
First floor.
The first floor. So the second floor is the dental. So the whole second floor is the dental.
Yes, ma'am.
And what about the first floor? Is there any other business on the first floor?
Nope.
So the massage business will be the entire first floor.
Yes.
Okay, and I don't know if you can answer this, but back in 1982, before it converted to an R2F, was a massage business a permitted business use for that building, that location?
By virtue of the fact that it was a professional building, I'm going to venture and say that it would be legal based upon the definition as defined by the New York State education law. It's deemed, it would qualify as such. Our massage establishment language looks like it was added or created in 2006, I believe, Ms. Haney. I'm just looking at abstracts here. But I'm just looking. But by definition of professional building and educational law 7801, I can't see how it would not otherwise be permitted legally by, in the village.
Does anyone here from the public has any questions?
I have I have one more question. Sorry, after you keep it.
No, go ahead.
And I don't know, I don't think there are separate requirements for parking for massage establishments. Is there a problem? I'm trying to picture whether
There's a parking lot there in the building, isn't there?
I understand. I just didn't know whether it's all just shared, whoever gets there. Is there an issue with the parking? I'm honestly trying to remember, but I don't remember. I don't recall there being any. It's pretty close to where I live. I don't recall there being any backups onto either Fenimore on. So I don't see that. I don't think I've never seen it as an issue. That's what I
Ms. Kramer, I did provide photographs also of that exactly of the parking area. And because this is pretty much like a sole proprietorship, the amount of traffic in and out with this facility will be very little.
Yeah.
There's only 1 or 2 therapists that will be on site.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions regarding this? Okay. You have anything to add, Mr. Spence?
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be back with everybody.
No, I said, do you have anything to add?
That's all. No,
Oh, I didn't know what you were
It's a pleasure to
answering.
be back. No.
I thought maybe I didn't speak. I'm sorry.
Oh, no,
The question was,
I know you all. are
"Well, it's a
used
pleasure
me.
to be back, but it's okay. You can answer it
It's a
that
pleasure
way.
to be back.
Thank you. We all thank you. Is there anything else anyone has on this, or do you want to close the hearing on this?
I mean, do you
I
have,
have-
does my
Just a
client?
second, Mr. Pat, just a second, okay? I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
I do have somebody raising their hand, but I'm not sure if this is
Please.
a member of the public. Should I promote them?
I suppose so. They're a human being.
We don't know. We'll find out.
Variance.
My dog will come right in here. Marty. By the way, I once was at another board, not this one, whose name would be on it, and they took a break, and when they came back, sitting right where I'm sitting was my dog. And I will tell you, nobody said a word for about a minute. I finally said, "I'm Morty out of here." But I was just one of my funniest moments. I just said, "No one's saying a thing." Did we promote somebody up with their hand raised? Hello, how are you?
Hi,
Hi.
my name's Teresa. I live 3 doors away from the
Okay.
professional building
Okay.
all my life. And I just have a couple of questions. I am concerned because it is a residential zone neighborhood and a lot of people have been there 70 years and more. And as new people are moving in, I'd like to keep the aesthetics of the neighborhood. I'm very, very happy in Mamaroneck. It's beautiful. And I just want to know, this is a new corporation for Ms. Shim, right? She was just incorporated in June.
I believe that to be the case in June, right? I saw that
And
too.
does she have any other establishments anywhere as a masseuse or running a massage parlor? Has she ever done this before?
Okay, we'll find out.
Opened?
So you want to know her prior experience or involvement with spa or massage, right? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Another question you have?
And I just, because day of COVID, I can't go around and go door to door and get everyone's opinion. I'm just worried because I want to keep the neighborhood safe. And yes, it is. They are performing under a non-conforming permit. The establishment's across the street on Palmer Avenue. It's a stationery store. It's a shampooch for animals. It's a deli. And that building has always had medical personnel in there, except for 4 years ago when they had a massage place there and it was operating without a permit.
Mhm.
And there was a complaint and they were forced to close. And I don't have the specifics of the complaint, only that they didn't have a permit.
Right.
So I'm just a little wary.
I
you
think this
understand where I'm coming from? I'm
Well,
sure
of course, you live nearby and you're concerned about you. You want to just, but as you just pointed out, and I'm delighted to hear this, but that when there was a complaint, somebody operating without a permit, they will close, which is what's supposed to happen. But why don't I'll find out that other question for you.
Okay,
Thank you so much for your questions.
thank you.
Mr. Spatz,
Sure.
could you address the issue that was just raised by, I don't know her last name, Teresa, who lives in the neighborhood, about the prior experience and with.
Sure. Teresa, thank you for.
I'm just looking here at the date on the 2013. Oh, so the license is from 2013 that you provided. Right? Mrs. Scott?
Let me take a look at the actual.
For
application.
John Han. Yeah, State of New York.
I would be delighted to allow my client to address her experience and.
I think that may be the case. I don't think I was giving them a test on their abilities. It's more in terms of has she had experience in this area? I think Danae would like to know, this is someone who's
Sure.
doing this. And I would point out to Teresa that they're in the record, but there are two licenses that they have to file. And they're by the State Education Department in New York. And the one is dated September 25, 2013. So I think, why don't you have your client address that if you would, please?
Sure.
The board could have the benefit of that.
Sure. Michelle, can you unmute your, please?
Yes,
One of the neighbors asked
Yeah.
a question about your experience and ability, obviously, to run the establishment. Could you share with the board and the neighbor a little bit about your experience in your business and how you plan on operating your business if given the permission to do so?
example like what? I show them,
Well, let me just ask you a question. I just want to make sure you understand
Yeah.
what you're being asked. So let's
Yes.
just start. What is your experience?
you mean I did my facial?
No, let's take a step back. What the neighbor wants to know and what the
Yes.
chair is asking, what experience do you have?
Do you have experience? Do you have experience in a spa, massage as?
Yeah, I was,
Make sure
yes,
you not
yes,
learn. This is
yes,
not
I
a,
was,
please.
yes. I was working for the flushing, yes.
Okay.
So you've done this before
Yeah, I done this before.
and you know how to run a business.
Yes, it's yes, I know, yeah.
You understand that there's certain requirements, like let's say hours
Yes, yeah, yes,
that you
yes.
have to
of course,
comply
yeah.
with.
Yes,
There's certain requirements that the village is going to have that you have to listen to
yes,
to be a good neighbor.
yes,
Okay. And you've done massages before. This isn't your first time.
oh, I did before.
You were licensed in 2013? Is that when your license was issued to you?
Shin, you sent me several documents.
Yes,
One of which is yours. The chair wants to know, when was your license grant? When did you get your license?
I don't remember exactly date, but a few years ago. 1 second. Yeah, probably like 2000. I don't remember exactly date.
Well, maybe the chair could refresh your recollection because you provided us certain documents that I actually sent to them. Chair, is it okay if I
Well, I want
Yeah,
to, I assume English is not your primary language, your original language?
Yeah, no.
Okay, so please, I understand that. No, this is, so just, it's fine. No, we got two licenses here. One is license 027124, which looks like it was issued in 2013. Now, I'm not sure, and I'm not good with pronunciations on this, but that's,
Zhang Huhan.
okay, I'll go with that. And the other one is
Zhang Li.
032144.
Yes, Zhang Li.
Right.
And then there's a Department of State Division of Licensing to Shen Zhang. That's number 1334085, Chair. Issuance 2019.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Teresa, does that respond to, just so you, I just wanted to make sure you're comfortable, that's all. I want to make sure you got the answer to your inquiry. So she's been licensed and she's operated before.
And
I mean, as far as whether she'll be successful or not, that would be something that always comes up is, people open up things, be it restaurants or other things, and
Okay, also, I'd like to know her hours of operation.
Yeah.
What
they're
would
controlled
be-
by the code, I believe.
absolutely, we have that in the application,
Right.
Chair. Can you just get to it?
But I believe the code actually specifies.
Oh, sure does. But in fact, we're not utilizing the full extent of that. It's 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. The code permits, I think, until 10 o'clock. We're not looking.
Okay, all right.
Oh, and also, excuse me,
Thank you.
I neglected, this might be of interest to you. I neglect one. There's also a license from the New York State Department of State for practicing cosmetology that was provided to us.
Right.
Yeah, and that's 2019. And that is, and looks like it's license AEC 1500505. Okay. Very good, thank you. Anyone else have any questions? I have one question. How many employees or other people do you plan to have in the near future?
In the beginning, classmate maybe 3, but I don't know in the future if business good, yeah, hire more people.
All right. Anyone else?
And Mr. Chair, Chair Newfield, we come back in 2 years. This is a very limited, short-term approval.
Because we want to see you, that's all. That
By
presupposes-
then I'll upgrade to a different ice cream and hopefully I'll actually be back in person. But we understand.
You only come back in 2 years if you get the permit the first time.
Understood.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Anyone else, any questions? Okay, is there any motion on this? I'll move to close. And a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Greta,
Yes.
Robin,
You're on mute, Robin?
you have to hold up a sign with your vote then, if you can.
Yes.
Okay,
I vote yes.
Meg, okay, I vote yes. Okay, the hearing is closed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair, members of zoning board again. Pleasure to see everybody. Stay well, stay safe, and have a great rest of the evening.
Enjoy your ice cream, sir.
I'm on it. I got it right here already. Thank you.
That's my concern. That's my big concern.
Good night.
Good night.
Good
Ms.
night.
Shing, you can hang up now, Ms. Shing.
Okay.
All right, good night, Ms. Shang. All right, next matter, did the people from 911 Fairway arrive? Are they here?
Have not gotten any response via email, so no.
Okay, so we've emailed them. They knew it was on for tonight and they're not here, right?
Mhm.
How about the board have any problem if we just adjourn that for a month?
I think it's fine. This is the first time they've not been, I mean,
Yeah,
they
I
haven't
mean,
made
it's-
a
yeah.
practice of this. Things happen.
A lot of days in the month, they could have gotten confused.
Also a very strange period of time. There's a lot going on.
Oh, there's a lot going on. I'm being serious. Listen, my son was supposed to be in Europe. He ended up going down to driving down to Georgia with his kids. And the other day he was coming home and I heard on the news about the Virginia overnight. And he was with 3 kids and his wife.
Oh,
I just, he said he got off the highway, finally got off the highway and he just drove. First, he tried to drive north, but he couldn't. He said he just drove south until he found something called a hotel or a motel. And he said it was like, but
wow.
people had issues with food. I mean, it's been insane lately. I mean, I got 3, 4 people in my office with COVID. It's ridiculous. That's why I think remote will be the new way. All right, so we're going to push that off for that. Great. Okay. We have a couple of other items if we want to take up first. Let me just get my file on that, please. Resolutions. Okay. We have preliminary drafts on 2. We have one on Fortuna Food Services, also known as the Quack Donut or Duck Donut. And there is a proposed resolution on that. Does everybody have that?
Yes.
Okay. The only question I had, Charlie, on that was on the second page, on the second whereas, it says based on the above, the proposed Dunkin' Donuts restaurant on the premises should be classified as a carryout. I was thinking, are we overstepping? It may be great the way it is. I was gonna say maybe it should be the proposed Duck Donuts is classified as a carryout by the zoning board to ensure, as opposed to changing it, because it's not ours to change. That's my reason. We're treating it as that. I just don't know. It seems like when you the designation is simply to ensure, I don't know. I just wonder if we're stepping too far. We can say the same thing by simply saying, we're treating it as this to ensure that the use of premises is properly, is adequately defined, but I leave that to others because we have people who are professional restaurateurs who talk about this. Robin and Meg, you two, I think are.
I think this is similar language that we've already used for a couple other.
Okay.
resolutions.
All right, that's fine.
I thought it was.
Anyone
fine.
have any discussion or any other points on this resolution?
Yeah, I just got some language. for A
Please.
couple of changes.
Sure.
So on page 2, at the middle of towards the bottom, it says the board deliberated on the application at its December 2nd. Didn't it also deliberate today? Aren't we also
Yes,
deliberating now?
yes,
So
we
I
are.
think so you need to
That
add
has to be
today's
in there.
meeting.
That's correct. Charlie, do you have that?
Yep, I got it.
And then is just technically English, the next one, it says whereas the application is it's not, is for a special use permit renewal with no change in size or use or layout, because
No
it
changes.
isn't
That's
sufficient.
very good. Yeah, yeah.
It isn't sufficient to say it's no size or use.
Okay. So that would be whereas the application is for a special use permit renewal with no change in size, layout, or whatever, or use, right? Okay.
Okay, got it.
That's
Can we
good.
say operations?
Operation, yeah, that's okay too. Instead of layout, we could say operations.
Although we know less about that, though.
I thought we asked them that if there were going to be any changes and they said.
We did.
Okay.
Operation, I think it's fine.
Anything else? Okay.
Are we making this with any term, or are we stating that it doesn't have a term? Should we?
I don't think it needs a term. We had a special permit, it operated, there were no
We need one.
issues.
We need to
Well,
state
this is-
that it doesn't
This
have
is in,
one.
this is in that shopping center, right? The small one across from, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see why we should, I mean, it's customary for us not to have terms. I don't see why we would need to issue a term.
Right, it's just, I've seen some resolutions where we actually say it, or I've looked at old ones where it says this is without a term. Do we need to state this is without a term, or we just let it go? We just don't.
Well, I think since it says in it something like it shall terminate upon, and then it says when it shall terminate,
Okay.
it's clearly implied that it doesn't terminate unless those things happen.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Any other changes on that? Okay, do we have a motion on this?
I move to approve this resolution as edited.
Fair enough. Is there a second on the, and an original second, not an edit second? There's a second?
I second.
All right, fine. Let's take a vote on that, please. We'll go Greta
Yes.
and Meg.
Yes.
Okay, Robin
Yes.
and myself. Okay, we are all on that. All right. The next is the next draft resolution, if the board wants to take it up, is on the Walton Avenue. I think we had talked about trying to get that up. Have you all got a copy of that?
Yeah, when I was reading this, I have a lot of comments, questions, et cetera, but a lot of them have to do with the whole issue of what is it?
Right. So Robin, let me just give you my quick comments because I had typed them so I can throw them on a table for you. If you take number 1, it says the premise is uniquely, it's not bordered, so it's bounded by roadways on all sides. And then I put, and its sole residence located on was effectively and visually an island without any adjacent neighbors and is a non-conforming residential property. Took out the word legal, Robin, based on what I knew you were going to say. And then it goes, I took out the next sentence, further its unique location and size, because we said that already.
I'm sorry, you're going pretty fast. I'm not sure if I can follow with you. I'm sorry.
Okay, let me just real quick, because it's the only, that was it. But if you take number one, it starts, the premises is uniquely.
As in the first whereas clause?
No,
Okay,
I
we're
mean-
past the whereas and we're into number one. I didn't get that. Sorry.
Number one.
Sorry.
Yes.
Did you say what you were going to say then?
Yes,
Now
please.
I'm ready to follow along.
Yeah, if I was more skilled, I would put it on a screen, but I can't. The premises is uniquely bounded by roadways on all sides and is the sole residence located on what is effectively and visually an island without any adjacent neighbors, and is a non-conforming residential property, period. And then it goes, I got rid of the next sentence because I thought it was redundant, and I went to accordingly, the requested area variances will not result in, and that was my only thing on that.
Okay, I had lots of actual, going through,
Shoot.
so my overall one is,
I
as
know.
I said, what is it? But if we go to, start from the very top,
Okay.
we have within the existing single-family house on the premises, there's no definition of the premises, so we need to somewhere put that 533 Walton Avenue is the premises.
Where are you? I'm sorry, give me just one
The
second.
first whereas clause.
In the
Oh, the
heading,
First whereas
Robin?
clause.
oh yeah, in the heading, it says 533 Walton, and then it says tax ID. I would assume then that it's just that lot. Should we describe that in the body of
You
the?
could define it in either the body or in the, I mean,
Okay.
it says premises, but gets, I don't know, it's, since
Well,
sometimes.
that's your
Yes, because I think later it starts to describe the premises as being something more than I consider the premises to be.
Problem.
So.
Okay, well, that is, but I guess I think you should start maybe, Robin, with the premises, as you indicated you were going to, and then later on you could say the premises plus, if you're gonna do that, right? At least have your core, I think.
Yeah.
Okay,
Do we
now,
all agree that the premises, do we all agree that the premises is just that lot, that where we
Yes,
saw the
I
boundary
think so.
lines, that is the premises?
Yes, because otherwise they wouldn't be needing the variances, right?
right, okay, then you go into the table, and I was confused by something, and this doesn't seem to match with what we were looking at today, but it says side yard, existing 1.25 feet, proposed 1.25 feet. So if it really doesn't make it, so it looks like there's no change. It doesn't make it clear that this is a new place. In the place where this landing is, it is not 1.25 feet. Otherwise, we don't need a variance.
Right,
I thought that it was an extension of building in the non-conforming yard. So
That's what I thought, but this doesn't seem to say that.
right,
That's my
but how
point.
did we describe that in the past when we say that it's
Well-
adding to the non-conformity in that sense, not that it's.
He had something in the, when he had the, and I've now closed it, so let me see if I can get it again. He had something in the way it was in his application was clearer. So let me see if I can find it in the application where we had in his letter that he submitted, if I can find his letter, the new letter that he submitted on 12/28.
Yeah.
The memo to the zoning board, that one. So he said on it, it says an area, so there he says an area variance of 13.75 feet is required. So again, this is where I was very confused on what this is. If he needs 13.75 feet, then is it new? Is it not new? What's the increase here? Where's the increase, or what's not the increase? I'm not saying this, we can't do this. I'm just saying, it's not clear what he's getting and what they're doing. And I was confused.
I don't know, the other choice, Robin, is what if we don't refer to a particular?
I think we have to say what variances we're giving him.
Yeah, no, you're right.
How do you describe it? We did that just for the garage.
Right, I think we said,
getting renovated.
Oh, wait.
I think we said something like an increase in a decrease in the, whereas there's something like there's an existing non-compliance of, I'm making up a number, 3 feet. And, the existing non-complying yard is 3 feet, and he is increasing the existing non-compliance by 1 foot or something like that. We have to say something like that, but I don't know what the existing condition is over here, because if you look at the chart, it's the same thing. So let me look at the site plan. Let's see if
Yeah,
I
there's a
can
little
find it.
problem though. I'm seeing two differences in the site plans.
Yeah, so it's,
Yeah, on the stairways that come down. Oh, he turned the stairways. Let's see something. Oh, yeah.
is it the survey that I was looking at? I'm trying to, oh, there's the site plan. Is it
Yeah,
the
so
site
yeah, which
plan?
one do you have, Robin? I notice a difference. I have one on the screen and one on my hand, and they're not the
Yeah,
same.
that's what I'm trying to, I'm looking online.
So what's the date on this one? Drawn.
Okay, so now we have, that's the site, that's the survey.
So which
and
one do you have? Like, take a look at the, because I'm seeing, you know, that 67.55 number that's on there? It's on the, if you go towards styles, it says side yard.
Yeah, 67.55, that's
Right,
the length.
now, if you take a look at that 67.5, I have two surveys, one site, and one of them has the steps on it and one has them avoiding it.
Right, well, I think this is the existing condition is what's on the survey. The one that says survey is the existing condition. So the existing condition is more of a problem because it has no side yard, and the proposed site plan, they're turning it to avoid is what it looks like to me.
Oh, so right, yeah, the survey is, oh, I see. So they're going to turn it, they're turning it.
So
So
were
they are
those stairs,
making it less, right?
Right, because it's dated January 11th, 2021.
were
So
those stairs, were there only 3 stairs within the lot that it could be considered a projection then? So it wasn't.
No, he turned it on the.
I understand, but the one that was there before.
It was like one step on them. It looked like one step crossed over.
And
Right, the
I
bottom
thought that
step.
it's only 1 or 2, up to 3 steps is considered a projection. So that's why it didn't create, you wouldn't consider that as an encroachment in the yard because that's permitted as a
wait, no,
projection.
he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps.
In the old version?
Yes.
Oh.
Okay.
that's what I'm looking
In the old version, there's 5 within the lot, or does some of it go past?
for. Yeah, only a little piece of one, Robin, on the one I'm looking at.
Right, but there's 5 steps altogether,
Yes, yes.
of which all 5 of them, all or a portion of all 5 is within the boundaries of the property.
Yes,
And
just a
so I'm
little
not
piece.
sure-
is all. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Now,
then,
in
but
the-
the new site one is better. It's
yes,
more.
it turns it. So
It turns.
if
right.
the old, but this is where I'm saying, if the old site one is existing, and
Right.
whatever it is, however it's legal non-complying or not legal non-complying, the non-complying condition is what it is. He's improving the non-complying
Right.
condition. He
Correct.
shouldn't need a variance. We don't usually require a variance for that.
Okay, but he did need it for the additional coverage for the stairs and for encroaching on the front yard.
Correct. Yes,
The
yes,
one on
but
the
not for the side yard. So again, that's where I was looking. It was looking at this table that trying to correct to make
Right.
all these consistent. That's where I was quite
Well,
confused.
if you're going to rebuild and you're improving, but it's still requiring a variance in a sense, because yes, you're redoing your property. It's less extreme than what it was, but it's new and it still is in that yard. Wouldn't you need a variance for it? Even though
We have not in the past, I'm sorry, Meg, will you finish?
well, it's just, I feel like they're extending it. So you could say it's much better, but it's also longer, along that boundary line. And so it seems like a different variance.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right. And maybe that's how we have to explain it, but I think we have to explain it because as you look on this chart, it looks like there's no difference.
Right.
So I think we
Yeah,
need to
except for the use
explain
of the word house.
what it
and plan
is.
there.
What it is.
So he's got existing, he says 125 from the house. So wait a second, he's saying I'm trying to find out where he's referring to by that. The 125 on the house.
Right. The house is, if you look at the site plan, the corner of the house that's closest to the stairs
Yes, I'm with
is
you.
probably the very corner there is 1.25 feet from the side yard. When he builds
No,
this new
I
stair,
don't think so. I'll tell you why, Rob.
I'm trying to expand, I'm trying to enlarge my site plan as big as I
Yeah,
can.
you can, but Robin, if you take a look up where you have the garage under 1-story
Yeah,
studio,
yeah.
that is the 1.2,
Oh, right.
right? So
Yes,
it's,
that's
I don't get it. I don't know what they're doing here. It's like, I guess you're saying that's as is, and the other one is that.
Right.
So I don't know. I think you're right. I don't know why he needs that. I mean, it's 1.25.
No, I think Meg is right that to the extent that he is put in the old, under the survey, he has, let's say, I don't know, how wide is the stairs? 5 feet is the width of a stair? I don't know what this width is.
I don't know.
Let's say, I'm going to make up a number. It may or may not be right. 4 or
17.
5 feet is the width of the stairs. So for 4 or 5 feet, for a piece of 4 or 5 feet, it violates it is within the required side yard, even if for the whole stairs. Now he's turning the sides and he's got the landing, both of which are in the required. No, they're in the front yard. There's no increase in the side yard. I
No,
don't see.
there's no increase. He's staying with that one. The closest one is still the corner
No,
there.
no, he's not. That's not the issue. As he's putting
Right.
the stair landing and the stairs are going into both the side yard and the front yard. And to the extent they're in the side yard, he is putting new, before you had, let's say, let's say, I'm going to, again, make up some numbers. Let's say he had 3% of the property in that side yard. Now he's got 6% of the property in the side yard. So he is increasing, and we have dealt with this before, and that's how we treated it many times.
Right.
That he's increasing. So I think we need to, rather than do this chart, because the chart doesn't, it's too complicated to do it in.
Doesn't lend itself to do this.
It doesn't lend itself. I'm with you. I think I felt the same thing because it's confusing, and I think you could just go. Can we just attach the plan?
I don't think that helps either. I think what we should say is something like lot coverage is very clear. With lot coverage, he's increasing lot coverage, no question. I think we should describe it, right? Lot coverage, 35% required, the existing, and he is increasing it. That's easy and that's clear. Then we get to the front yard. So right now, the existing condition is that the existing house extends the existing front yard is only 6.2 feet from, if the existing yard is 6.2 feet and the proposed is 12.7, it sounds like the new one is a decrease. Again, that's where I was confused.
In the front yard?
You look at the chart again, but it's not exactly what he's doing because that whole stair is in. This chart says that the existing is a 6.2 foot front yard.
But because one.
Where's the 6.2? I'm trying to find it.
No, but because
one
one
plan.
No, it's
There it is. No, I found it. Wait a minute, Robert.
Okay, but because let's say he
126.95. It's right above the number 126.95 on the survey.
So let's say he had gotten, I'm not sure what the history was, but he had gotten variances.
Yeah, there it is, Robin.
To the front yard. So he had gotten.
Let's see it, David.
Variance. He had shown this house. I'm sorry. He had shown this house. And
Matt, could you hold up 1 second so we can we don't have to go backwards that way. We'll go right to your next. But if you take a look, you see the 6.2 on the front yard line? You see where it says front yard line on the.
I see the 6.2, yeah.
There you go. That's it. So now that's 6.2 and it's going, proposed is 12.7.
Oh, because it's a completely different place. It's unrelated. The existing, again, it's the same issue. The existing is wrong. The existing at this point is significantly more than 6.2. The existing at this point is, he doesn't have the dimension, but it's significantly more. So he just doesn't have the dimension.
At one point it is, but that doesn't give him license to build anywhere at 6.25.
Exactly.
Still building into it. He needed a variance to do these stairs.
Right, but it's not worded, this is not worded at all correct.
Right. So we should just word it correctly and not try to figure out how the chart.
Yeah. Charlie, you following us?
Yeah, what I would suggest is, let's go through all your comments. I'll revise the resolution for the next meeting so that you don't take a vote on something that everyone isn't entirely clear on.
Okay. Then I will continue going on with my comments. The last whereas clause on the page says, whereas the premises is islanded, it's not, I don't know what that means. So whereas the premises is an island of land bounded by, or just is bounded by, but not islanded. The last whereas clause on the first page, it says, whereas the premises is islanded. I don't like the, I mean, there's no, I
Yeah, I
don't
don't
think
like
there's a
that either.
verb to island.
Do we
So
need
either
that?
we say,
Surrounded by roadways.
right, surrounded by the following streets.
Fine.
Okay, then the next one, whereas the premises is completely, again, the same thing, surrounded by streets. I don't know why we're using the word roadways here when roadways isn't a term that we normally use, and is not directly adjacent to, and it's not that it's not directly adjacent to neighbors. It's not that it's not adjacent because we're talking about a piece of property to any other properties.
Yes.
No other property.
No, you're absolutely right. That's much better. It's surrounded by this and is not adjacent to other properties.
Correct. That's the issue.
As it
Okay.
abuts the road, it abuts roads all around it. No, that's very good. I like that up front.
Okay, now with the next one, the village of Mamaroneck determined, no. Whereas the village of, I don't know what that means, has determined, I assume it means, whereas the village of Mamaroneck code specifies the applicable, for, I don't know how the village.
Don't you
of
have an
Mamaroneck-
option play on that under the code?
Well, I
Oh,
thought
maybe that,
the
then it's
applicant-
not the village of Mamaroneck, then he's determined,
Let me just,
the applicant.
Well, then just say pursuant to the code, the front line is.
Right, but it's not that the village of Mamaroneck has
Yeah, I
determined.
agree.
Either it's a code requirement
Yes,
or the
I agree.
applicant has
I agree.
determined.
so if I could just explain myself there to make sure what we're
Go
doing.
right ahead. All the explanation.
I believe in between the last meeting and this meeting, the applicant did go to the building department and they rectified and I thought determined what the applicant chose to be the applicable side yards and front yards pursuant to the code.
Right, the applicant decided. It's not the village that tells
Do you
him.
really need that line there? That whereas line?
Well, since it's, I think it's a corner lot, somebody has to have determined,
Okay, all right.
you need to know.
So then
which is
say
the
whereas, just say whereas well, you need to
Yeah,
say.
the applicant has indicated that, or it's the applicant makes that decision, subject to the code. Whereas in accordance with the Village of Mamaroneck Code, the applicant has determined that the front yard is
Good.
blank.
Good, good.
But he is supposed to file that with the village. What he,
Yeah, no, Charlie said he did file that with the village.
so you could say, as the applicant filed with the village. the-
All right. I'm with you.
Okay, somewhere we need to say, because at the much earlier than this, but this is where it occurred to me, we need to say there is an existing house on the premises that is being altered, because we never say that. We never say the premises includes, there is an existing house, and we need to make an absolute statement. There is an existing house and he's renovated and he is altering it. Okay. Then the one that begins, whereas a fence
Yeah.
Yeah.
has been constructed, which has increased the size. I don't understand, which has increased the size of the requested area variances. It doesn't increase the size. The variances are the variances based on what's included. So I don't know what they're increased from. I didn't
I
understand
don't know what
that.
what's the point of this paragraph?
Right, I don't either.
I thought you could say, I don't know what the fence has to do with it. You could say, you could make mention of the fact that there is land around the lot that acts as a buffer to minimize the impact of the encroachment in the yards.
Well, I think,
I don't
what
think
it
you
seems
need
to me,
that.
what he was doing here, what it looks like this is, if you recall, when we had that, just last year, towards the end of last year, we had the property owner whose property abutted the Metro North train lot, and he'd fenced in and was using a portion of the Metro North. And we specifically said in our resolution that the area variances that we were approving was based on the actual lot size and not the property within the fence. So I thought that might have been
Good
what
point. That's a
Charlie,
good point.
which was being intended here, in which case it needs to say something more like that, whereas the variances are based on the actual boundaries of the lot and not on the fence, which includes property that is not within.
Well, don't
that
say
is
on the
not-
lot, say on the survey of the lot.
Or the site or something like that, yeah.
I thought they were drawing attention to the fact that the encroachment in the very small front yard is influenced for neighbors or people driving by, or the visual, by the fact that there is a buffer of land around it. I think that that is part of my opinion. If there was a neighboring lot and they wanted to get that close, I would feel complete, even on the street, it would be so much different than other homes that it was 1.5 inches, 1.5 feet from the street. I would think that that doesn't look right, but because there's a buffer of land, it doesn't stick out in the neighborhood. So to me, I think calling out the fact that there is land that the applicant doesn't own, but which buffers the lot, does have for me an impact on the aesthetics and.
Yeah.
I think both points.
I have no problem with that, but I don't want to see that where it says he doesn't own, because I don't want to give the ownership, which is
I think-
outside of the survey
there's
property.
I think it's 2 points. One, whereas he's fenced in more than he owns, and area variances are based on what he owns. And 2, the fact that there is all this additional property allows for the buffering, which reduces the visual
But I would
impact
just,
of the house.
I'm with you, Robin, except for one thing, the word own. I would say outside of the surveyed property.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I don't know if he owns it or not. To me,
Because
that's.
he just told us that he tried to purchase it and he was.
I understand. He said, yeah, and maybe he owns it already. Maybe he's acquired it. I'm not, that's a
Can't
whole,
acquire adverse possession against the government, David. You know you can't do that.
but you could get a prescriptive easement against them.
Right, but you still don't own it.
Anyway, I still
don't
think,
own it.
in my mind, my opinion, my granting of this resolution, part of it is because there is a buffer of land around it that.
Well, I think that we all agree. That should be mentioned. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's an
Okay.
island and you know where you mentioned that to make it easy? Maybe Charlie, where you say that it's an island, not adjacent, and contains a buffer.
Yes, except I'm going to stay away from the word island, I think.
Well,
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
You're right, because you've described it effectively. All right.
Okay.
Chair, Board, if I
No,
may,
I don't think so. I'm sorry.
when
No.
I,
Charlie, is this a problem?
when we issue the CO, I want to
10 minutes.
state that there's surveys in play.
Right.
Okay, so everything inside that buffer is going to be mentioned on their CC or CO for the property at the end.
Okay, my next comment is on the next whereas clause. Due to the unique shape and location of the premises, the single family house is a pre-existing non-conforming structure. The house is not a single forming legal non-conforming structure due to the shape and location of the premises. It's non-conforming in assuming because it doesn't comply with the code. That's why it's non-conforming.
I agree with you. I would take that out, and then I wouldn't all call it legal non-conforming. It's non-conforming. We don't have to go
We
there.
don't know if it's legal.
We don't need to go there. It's an issue. So you want to either whereas due to the unique shape.
We could take it out.
I think you can take the whole paragraph out.
You think so too?
Charlie?
Gone.
Okay.
That was efficient.
Then I think because I had the same comments on number 1 that David did more or less, but it doesn't matter. Then on the conditions, we normally have conditions about how there can't be any changes to the plan except de minimis that don't affect the substances of the variance. He's got to get his building permit within a certain amount of time.
We tie it to the survey, we tie it to a site plan.
That's what I'm saying. He's got to comply with the site plan as submitted today. So we need to add that condition. It's in almost all of our other, it should be in every other variant, something like that. So Charlie should be able to find it.
Yep. Okay.
That's it. There's not much left.
Sporting. Greta, Meg?
Nope.
That covered everything I was thinking about. So thank you, Robin. That was very thorough.
Thank you, Robin. Will you want to wait for next month on this?
Yeah, I'll revise.
There's an interesting thing I've mentioned. Charlie and I have discussed it once, and we experienced it in my office recently. And that's where there are municipalities that have filed a vote. We approve, we don't approve. And that's it. Now, the law says you're supposed to file the whole decision, right? Showing your findings. And we had a case where after we represented the homeowners, after the Article 78 was commenced, after it, and after they put papers in, the board then issued a decision. And I said, well, that's a little late in the game. And the courts, particularly in the second department, remember, Charlie, we discussed this and they said, oh, well, that helps us. That's good because now we don't have to remand it. We have it. Which I'm a little floored by that. I still find it to be a very lack of logic, and it's almost a way you can be non-compliant and compliant. So there are some boards now that have started to just go, they take a vote and then they write the reasoning into it, but I don't think we should do that. That's fine. So you want to wait till next month, everybody, on this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree. That's fine.
May I ask a quick question for 805 Mamaroneck, the draft resolution with the edits? Will that be reviewed at the next meeting as well? Or once those edits are done, will that be able to get signed and processed?
I think 805, we had minor changes, right?
Yeah, we had
So-
minor changes. They were very minor.
Okay, so it won't have to go to the next meeting in February?
No, we actually
Okay.
voted on it. We
Okay,
did the.
just
We
checking.
voted on it, right,
Okay,
right.
thank you.
Okay. All right, we have a host of some additional matters, so we can try to get out of here in half an hour. I assume we're not gonna deliberate, we could wait for the others for next month. I mean, we have other things to deal. I know we may put a lot of time in. We have inputs as lead agencies.
I have some questions, Meg, on your two comments.
Okay, so we're gonna go to that.
So are we moving to that?
Just,
Let me, okay.
well, wait, let me first, are we gonna, David, you want to
Yeah.
turn that, and make that?
Yeah, so I think let's go to that now. So there were two issues that we've been advised. As a lead agency, part of our responsibility is that if we have input, we should provide it to the lead agency. And Meg has, we discussed it a bit and then.
I proposed that, definitely
No,
further.
these are your proposals. These are not
Okay,
edicts.
I have a question first, which is, did we see?
I lost you. Robin, are you there? Is anyone else moving?
Yeah, she froze.
Everybody raise your right hand. All right, we got you. All right, you're good.
Uh-oh.
What is your swing? Are you in the? But
I'm here.
we lost Robin. We didn't lose me.
Robin, we lost you for a
Oh,
little
she's
while.
back. Yeah.
All right, Robin, you were frozen for a while. You feel better now?
Okay, so let me say that again. I read all these and I thought, did we see the application? Because these are so detailed. We couldn't know these without seeing the application. So
Yeah.
did we see the application? I don't recall ever seeing the application. I was very puzzled by
Definitely.
how we could have this.
Okay, definitely 715 Mamaroneck Avenue. It did come to us and we saw that it needed more variances. We were all a part, and we had a preliminary review of 715 Mamaroneck Avenue. For Variance, once it was announced that it was a lead agency, so I went and looked at the application that was filed with the planning board.
Okay, I don't think we can make any comments that we all have, that the board as a whole should not be, as much as these may be the perfect comments, I don't see how we can make comments on an application that we haven't seen.
We have seen the 715 Mamaroneck.
Okay, so that may be right, and I'm, okay, but I don't see how we can make any comments on 572 when we haven't seen. And by the way, I went to the planning board after I got your comments and I didn't see the application, so I don't know whatever happened to them, but they weren't.
Right,
there.
because it was the month before and it didn't
Yeah, it
get
was a while ago.
the very next month.
So anyway, but because once I had your comments, I wanted to look and see. And so I would not vote, could not vote for sending a document for an applicant with all these comments on something that we haven't seen, no matter how appropriate they are, because
Well,
we don't know.
let's start with the first one then, with 715 Mamaroneck Avenue. As
Okay.
our comments, these are simply informal comments. They're not bounding on anybody. I suppose we can do it by resolution, but sometimes you can, but have any problems with the 715 Mamaroneck Avenue?
Okay, a couple things.
Sure.
No, all those comments are fine. It was the stuff at the bottom. The ZBA wants to inform the planning board. I don't know if a signed and stamped survey is part of the requirement. I don't know if it's the planning board application. I don't know if at this point in the process, the planning board requires a signed and stamped survey. If it doesn't, then I don't know if this comment is appropriate. Certainly we do, but
So how about this, instead of saying,
But I'm not saying it is required. I'm just pointing out that it is.
okay.
So this
That's
is supposed
fine.
to be
Yeah,
concerns.
okay.
It's not supposed to be a absolute fact. We're sending concerns,
Okay.
not decisions.
That's fine, okay. And now it says the application does not list the need to comply with the multiple dwellings law. I'm not sure that the application needs to. An application doesn't list all the laws they have to comply with. They have
Maybe
to
it
get-
doesn't. I'm informing. I would like to just present that to the planning board to consider. So
I would not like to include
it's
that.
not, I am not stating it has to. I am stating the
I
fact
understand.
that it did not
And I
refer.
think, all right. I think that Robin's point is that there's an implicit indication when you're saying that you're saying it because it should. But I understand your point, Meg. You're saying, hey, I just.
I rephrased it with.
But maybe what you want to say is that.
Does not
the board knows-
consider whether it needs to comply with. multiple-
Or that the board notes that the following items, which are not included, may be helpful and or necessary.
Except that the planning board, whether or not it has to comply with the multiple dwelling law, isn't something that the planning board reviews. Similarly, whether or not it needs any kind of a permit from the Department of Health because it's doing certain other things, we don't say anything about that.
Okay,
Whether or not it complies with all kinds of other laws. Every application doesn't just need to comply with the village code, but has to comply with numerous laws. And
No.
I do not see why we would say, no, it has to come. You wouldn't say that in an application. An application to the planning board, you don't list all the laws you have to
Okay.
comply with.
but I think the
Similarly,
board.
we got-
in an
we got a
application to
memo.
the
Hold on,
ZBA,
everybody.
You don't
Wait, wait, wait.
list all
Charlie-
the laws you have to
Whoa.
comply with. So I don't know why we're
I
calling
understand
out
your
the
point.
MDL.
Charlie sent
Hang on,
us,
slow down, everybody. Bring it down. Thank you. Okay.
but Charlie sent us a memo in regards to, about multiple dwellings law, right, Charlie? In which you said that the ZBA is the board that would hear variances. So it is a concern of it is something, point of view of the ZBA that to take into consideration multiple dwellings law. And I thought that you had made the finding that 715 Mamaroneck Avenue did need to comply with multiple dwellings law. I thought that was in your memo, Charlie. Am I wrong?
So the village did adopt the multiple portions of the New York State multiple dwellings law. So to the extent they have to comply with that, that's a determination the building department needs to make because it is very technical. It has to do with things from plumbing to construction. To the extent they need variances, they then would have to come before the zoning board of appeals. And we should remember that the planning board is doing a lead agency review of all permits and actions that are required for the entire project.
I understand, but one of the things, if I could maybe find a common ground here, is that our job is not to tell them what they have to do. Our function is to say, in doing your assessment from an environmental standpoint, we think you should take into account and be apprised of the following. It doesn't mean it's required or not required. It means you ought to make sure somehow these things are reviewed and considered by you in making an assessment. That's the point of this, Meg. It's not to tell them how to run their show and what their jurisdiction
I'm
is.
happy rephrasing it. Saying,
No, I'm not criticizing it.
Did you say does
So-
not address the potential applicability of the multi-dwelling law?
Well,
You say
instead of saying it
I'm happy to-
instead of saying it doesn't, how about we simply say, the ZBA would like to note that the planning board, that a proper assessment of the impact of this should involve the consideration of matters that include the following.
Okay.
And instead of saying what they didn't do, say the following, okay? That flood zone variance and the DOS should be included, is not included. It was that I think flows as opposed to saying that they didn't do something, Charlie. It's saying, listen, you got to take these into consideration.
Okay.
Because I think,
That's fine.
and I
That's
think,
all it was my intent. I'm sorry.
well, I understand it. I think Robin's right in the sense that when it says it does not do this, it does not do this. Imagine if we got that, we kind of go, hey, thank you. If we need your help, we'll call. Our role, as I understand it, Charlie, is to simply say, as an involved agency, we're just apprising you that these are factors we think should be considered. You may decide, and it's not limited to their jurisdiction. It's limited to their assessment of it. So I think it is broad. I think you're right on the breadth of it, Meg. I just think that it's not a matter of, does not list the need for a floodplain. Okay, so instead of that, for example, the application does not list the need for a floodplain development plan. Okay? A floodplain development should be considered for this application. that's something like that.
Sure,
That's
no
it.
problem.
Charlie, does that make sense? Am I off base or?
No, I think that's better. And maybe for the floodplain variance, flood zone variance is different because if we know specifically that it needs a flood zone variance, that's different than something else that we
That's
want to
true.
make sure they consider.
That's
So
good.
if we know they need a flood zone variance, and I don't know if they do, but if
Right.
we knew they needed it, then I think this way is appropriate to say.
Right.
If we don't know they need it, we just have to make sure
Point
they
it out and say,
consider
you
it,
guys should
then
consider this.
it has to be the way that David suggested.
Yeah, you're right. If it's something we know, say, hey, you have to determine whether or not you need a variance from us on this. So that's got to be in there. And the other ones are, you should be aware of this.
Right.
And deal with it and consideration of these factors. Maybe that's it. It's really a matter of, I think if, remember the regs used to say that the agencies all have a duty to notify the others of things that they think should be considered and impacts. So it's a matter of, and I think they're all listed here. I mean, they're good, but I do think that, and I know you've explained it, Megan, it makes sense. But when you say they did not do this, not do this, the implication is, you screwed up. And the answer is no, just make sure you consider these items. And maybe there are some that are.
I in no way was saying the planning board screwed. They just got the application. I was just.
I don't know. Well, I think I have to be honest. I think this is wonderful that we're taking the time to go through something, because that I think is our role and the role of all agencies. And I'm not sure how many do it. And I think you put a lot of effort into this, and we tweak it, work on it, and we'll be up.
And I understand, Robin, that we didn't, as a board, have the applicant come to us with 572 Van Rant, but when, as a lead agency, says what are your, as it says other boards can address concerns, what else do you do except go and look at the application? And I understand you didn't find it. I did read the application, and so.
Did you read the application on 572?
I did. I spent quite a bit of time going through it. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but you're asking us to say these things for an application that only you reviewed, and I am not trying to impugn you or otherwise, but we may not agree that.
I kept saying that I wanted to, do this. I'm sorry that other people have not looked at those applications.
How about the following?
I tried to, as I said, I tried to, but it wasn't.
Robin, how about we say something like this? How about on the Van Rant, to simply indicate that the applicant, what did we receive on that? I don't have it in front of me.
Nothing but the NOI.
Okay, fine. So all we received is this, as a result of which one of the members of the board arranged to review the thing, right? And has the following comments that we passed on to you. Then I think that's accurate. And then, we're saying it, and we're giving you the backing of, if you will.
That's fine. I had.
Does that make sense to you?
Something like this, I had no idea how to start to, put the comments in, how to list them. So.
I do have one more comment on the prior one.
Mm-hmm.
And I did, because I didn't understand it. It says the application does not call out the need for a variance regarding open air space per apartment. I'm not sure what you mean by open air space per apartment.
In the code, when you have a multi-residential building, depending on how many apartments, you need a certain amount of square footage, and it's described in the code. I'm sorry, I don't have it right in front of me. Then you have to have open to the sky space for the use of all tenants.
Right.
And how much square footage of that you need? So do you want me to have more code?
I think the way it's written is a little unclear, because that's not exactly what the code says. The code talks about it as open space, and I know now that I understand.
It says open to the sky. So I could go back and call out the code, cite the code and the code term there instead of the words I have there.
Sorry, I'm trying to find it now to get the exact language if I can, but I don't know that I can. I think I understand what you're trying to say, but let me see if I can find it. Just hang on one second, because assuming this is what you mean, and that's all, I just want to make sure. Where's the residential district? Anyway, it's Yeah, I can't find the code when you go back.
Let's go fast. I think if you look at multi-residential, I think it's in the new section for multi-residential stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to look at, and that's what I couldn't.
Hold on. What's the section we're looking at?
That's what we don't have the section number.
No, but what's the words? Give me some words.
Open to the sky.
Is it in the TOD, Meg, or is it in the multiple residential?
Usable, open to the sky. Sitting on that, open to the sky, 340.
What code, where are you reading
I don't know
that?
if it's the whole thing. I'm just 348.
You mean
I'm
342?
sorry, 342, 3B. Usable open space.
Wait, what section, Dave?
342. I just lost it. That's nice. Hold on 1 second. 342, 3-3, B is in boy. And it says 100?
Wait, 342B, there is no 342.
3B. I'm reading what it showed up as, but now I'm going into it. So it looks like it's a definitional. Yeah, it's called terms defined. I don't know why it's 342.3, and then it's under B. Oh, B, because B is the definitional sections. Okay.
Oh, yeah, it's under the defined terms, usable open
Right.
space.
There you go. Use it exactly. There you go. Thank you. Good.
Right, but that doesn't
Doesn't
answer.
tell us anything. No,
It
it
does,
doesn't.
on any lot containing more than 15 dwelling units, shall be subject to 10% of the open space requirements.
Yeah. Yeah, this doesn't answer.
I
this
think
is
in
what
the
makes-
TOD, I think it was in the TOD.
Yeah, I think you might, that could be where it is. I vaguely recall at one
Yeah.
point seeing something like that.
Okay, well, I can look up
Here you
these
go,
very
here you go.
specific.
342, attachment 2, schedule of minimum requirement for residential districts. The amount of usable space shall be determined by blank.
Yeah, but anyway, I can go back and get
Open bottles. I have open
everybody
bottles.
else looking for the specific. I thought it was per apartment, and I thought we'd actually, that
Well,
had,
take a look at that. Oh, residential. Here we go. 342.50. Yeah, that's what you're looking for. I think 342.50. Hang on.
Yeah, that
Right.
makes sense.
That's maybe it. Open space, 300 feet, square feet per unit. It's on a table under 342-50. Residence uses in commercial districts and transit and TOD.
Open space requirement, 300 feet per market rate unit, 100 feet. That doesn't say usable open space. That just says open space requirement. It's not the same thing. You see, this is why I was confused.
I can take out usable and I can cite the code so they understand.
Yeah, but you know, the funny thing is, Robin, and you're right, except who knows? Sometimes you change the definitional use, right?
We know that. We don't know whether, but the point is, I don't know whether it was the same thing intended, what it means.
Usable, so the phrase we had before was usable, right?
And this just says open space. And so usable does not mean open space. For
So if you put
example,
it in quotation marks, it should work, right?
And also, we are asking them to consider this. We're not.
Yeah, that's right.
making a decision
but we
about-
have to make sure the way you wrote it is just there's no open air space per apartment, because the way it's written implies that that it's a per apartment open air space. So to the extent that they have to consider whether or not, isn't it just sufficient to say, was there consideration of the amount of open space as required by the code? Something as simple as that.
Hey, Robin, Robin, you're gonna get a kick out of this. Wait a minute, I gotta tell you guys that. We have the definition of usable open space, right? Then you put that phrase in quotes to find where they use it. And you know where they use it?
In the definition.
Zippo, only in the definition. So you define a phrase for the use in the code.
And you never use anywhere
And you
else.
never use the code. Instead, and that's when you get confused. Does that mean
Yeah.
open space? Does that mean this? Right? There you go, though.
Okay, if you go to 342.50, E, the letter E, 7,
Has a usable open space requirement, yes.
150 square feet per unit.
Right. So if you want to say, then what you should say here is, it's not, again, it's not, the board does not call out the need for a variance. We don't know if they need. The question is, they should consider whether or not they've satisfied the requirement for usable open space, period. And that would cover what.
I got it. Okay, but that's the same thing as all the others, but it is usable open space and it is per unit. I said apartment instead of unit, but it is usable open space per.
Well, it's not, it's wait, the amount is per unit, but it's not like each unit has to have 150 square feet.
No, I'm just bringing their attention to.
Yes, that's fine.
That's all.
Because of the importance of the whole concept. Charlie, I have a question. If this is an expression just of the board's input, it's not a binding input, it's an agency input, right? Is it something we vote on, or is that something we simply say the board deliberated, discussed the issues, and wants to bring this to your attention? Let's say like Meg writes a letter of that type or something. What do you think about that? Or do we really have to do a formal resolution? I would think you don't, but what's your input on that?
You don't need a formal resolution. It would be stronger if the correspondence has the consensus of a majority of the board.
Okay, that makes sense. I think that's a very good position. I agree with it. I think that, so the only issue is, because I don't want this thing to just take over and be a life unto itself. So either we all say, or either you have a thing saying the board discussed it and this represents the consensus of the board's input. That wouldn't need a resolution, would it?
No.
Okay. I mean, listen, I'll do as everyone wants to do, but I think that starting with resolutions just becomes a whole new, to me, this is a lot easier to simply say.
Yeah, I thought it would just be like a memo that.
Right, you say this was, the board discussed this, and the following is the consensus of the board's opinions, you know, a combination of whatever.
It's not even a consensus, the board agreed to.
Right, the board is providing you with
these topics or these points to you.
Right.
For your
And,
consideration.
maybe what you can get is the section that provides us in the regs, there's a section that requires input on this. I gotta just get something.
So do you want me to attempt to rewrite this, or is Charlie going to do it, or what should we do?
Why do you do it? I mean, it's up to you. I think, what do you think, Charlie?
I'm
about to
with pleasure, whatever you guys would prefer.
Meg, you want to just, Meg, you've done this and you've been, I mean, I don't care, but I think maybe that would be good. Excuse me, I'm about to run out of juice, so I gotta just plug this in. I think that would be a nice way of dealing with it. Maybe do it. I mean, I'm very pleased, and I want to just commend everybody. I mean, on the whole, I think this is great because this is what it should be. This is where other boards should be involved in giving input. Charlie, it's actually, and you can give it a section of the regs, maybe. There's a section that says all agencies shall. Actually, we're supposed to.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now.
We're also supposed to get a complete copy of everything filed. So the complete copies of the application should have been filed.
The application and the EAF, right? Right.
Everything should have been filed. And just sending us an NOI with nothing is really useless.
Yeah, I know,
I
but you know
believe
what,
this
Robin?
is the address that happened when I wasn't here and there was a switch, and I think it was supposed to be sent. We found this out at planning. Ashley did explain that. So it kind of got lost in limbo. I guess the NOI just got sent out by itself.
Look, as I see it, this is a step, a good solid step in the right direction. And the fact that it wasn't done perfectly is of no consequence. What it means is this is way more than I think I've seen people notify us on, and us notify us. I think this is wonderful. I like this. I think this is, I don't know. Charlie, do boards often do this in your background and your other?
Typically, boards don't. Typically, you get involved agency responses from state agency or counties.
Right.
But
Right, because they have a staff to do it.
Yeah.
But we're an involved agency here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And coordinated review, so you can send your comments.
And they don't have, you can actually, if we ever disagreed on some, you could say, these represent not all board members at every point, but I think it's great. I like it. I mean, I don't. So we're gonna
I have
just.
to be careful to just simply say, these are topics for you to consider, that.
We'll give you the language in the regs. It is correctly noted in them. It's actually the involved agencies are supposed to assist if you're involved and not wait until things, supposed to give them input. And I think it's great. Okay, so you're gonna do that up and you'll circulate that as well?
I'll circulate that.
Okay, super.
How do we do that? Because it's not a public, it's okay for people to send comments back or something. Are we violating open meetings law if we do this in email circulation?
It's not a matter of a resolution or a thing like of an action, is it? Charlie,
No, you're discussing it in the open forum, so that's more than appropriate.
No, but if I circulate a revised version and somebody wants to make comments on it, is that okay to do by email or?
The comments would be limited to some significance, not I think this should be phrased, but I guess then you just circulate. What do you think, Charlie? Then if someone says no, that you missed it, you misstated on this, that's not a problem, is it, or is it?
No, it's not. And practically speaking, there's really no other way to do it unless you're all in the same room.
Right. Which we're not going to be. Okay. Okay, thank you. That was very good. I think that's great. Two quick things, if I can. Everyone can go about their life. First off, we have one matter that I've discussed with Charlie and I'd like to bring up at the next meeting. And I think I'd like to get a legal input, maybe meet with counsel on it then, all of us. But I'm concerned about something here, and we have this FEIS that technically and not tech is legally our responsibility to do the FEIS. And we don't get any responses to the inquiries that they're supposed to provide us. I'm sure there's reasons for it. I'm not suggesting it's in bad faith. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just suggesting factually we haven't got them. And I'm concerned about that. And I'd like to meet with our engineer to understand some things here, because on that project, the storage facility, we actually, because of the segmentation and the way it came up, we actually deal with the original building as well. And, that I'm just going to be practical. I'm not an engineer, but whatever they built, and they can tell me, all the engineers in the world, how, everything was great. Well, look what happened. And I'd asked, there was a big failure there. So you take your failures and you utilize those to avoid them in the future. You don't push them aside. To me, whatever was built there had a problem in it. And because look what happened. So how do you mitigate against it in the future, both there and in the new thing that they want to put up? And I think that I'd like to meet with an engineer about, because I just don't want this. Oh yeah, they've answered everything. That means nothing to me. They haven't answered a thing in the sense of there's no question and answer about what happened. I asked them at the last meeting. I said, well, what was the damage? It wasn't the last meeting, maybe 2 meetings ago. They haven't even told us. So they'll fix it up. It'll be looking beautiful. So I've asked Charlie, did you speak to the building department about that? I wanted to see if there's permits for reconstruction.
Not yet, but I'll get the permits for.
I appreciate that. I hope there are some. Yeah. I think that what we need to do is we're going to look like we're the lead agency that hasn't prepared the FEIS. So I think what we should do is plan to maybe meet or talk beforehand, like we can set this thing going with the engineering and Ashley. And give them, if you want, we can give them, let's say, a time period to respond to the questions that they've been posed with. I'd like it like 8 or 9 days before the meeting, so we get the hard copies before, and then we can discuss it at the meeting. Because I know we haven't done anything wrong, but when one looks back at this one day, and Robin, I think you've seen this a lot too, is you're gonna say, well, we didn't do it. We didn't do it. We have the responsibility. It's our FEIS to do. And all I know is it's in a stall, but not because of us. And so, fine, if they're not going to give it to us, we can write an FEIS based on that too. But I think it's a responsibility, and I want to be fair to them and fair to everybody and fair to compliance. So I think maybe, Charlie, we can say the next meeting is what, February the 4th, something?
February the 3rd.
3rd? Oh, I'll be here the wrong 3rd.
February the 3rd.
Okay. So what's the time period? What's like that's a Thursday. So what's like the Thursday before, January the? Someone do backwards counting here? 3.
I'm looking at that calendar. It would be a week before would be January 27th.
Okay, so that'll be a Thursday. So why don't we say anything that they want to respond to, we'd like by January 26th, hard copies. Unless you don't want hard copies, I don't care. But I mean, and then let's deal with it at the meeting. we'll take a half an hour in a work session. And I think I'd like to go to a council session as well, because there are legal issues. I'd like to get some clarification on our responsibilities and options.
And you're
All right.
saying that we're going to do it, we have this deadline for them to submit something and you want
Yes.
to work
Well,
session
we've
February
asked-
3rd meeting?
Yes, because we've asked them in the past, as I
Oh,
understand.
I'm in
Oh.
complete agreement. I just wonder how much we can get done on February 3rd. We have several of resolutions now to discuss.
Correct.
As well as this, so.
Well,
it's
we'll keep
quite a
it
bit.
tight. We'll keep it, we'll keep the.
Robin, you're on mute. I can see you're talking. You're on mute.
Give them a deadline.
What? That was great, Rob.
Did we give them a deadline? I don't,
Yes.
that's what I'm asking.
No, we will now, because they were supposed to have, not only is there a deadline, we have a deadline of when we were supposed to have prepared it.
I understand that.
And
but-
I don't
but
want to be
because-
the party, we're gonna be the board that we failed, and look at this, Your Honor, we've been waiting around and waiting around. No one will remember what they had to do. So I think we'll tell them now, if they intend to respond to any of the prior inquests, please provide it by January, whatever. These were simple things.
Oh, so then Charlie needs to write a letter from the
Yes.
board to them saying, please, we had.
board would
at the-
like
at
any
the meetings
response you-
on At the meetings on blank and blank, we requested certain information from you that has not been provided. Please provide all that information not later than blank, right?
Well, or I don't know if you have to recite all of them. On any requested information, please provide by blank date in hard copy, right? And then let's take it up then. And then I think, Charlie, you and I talk about the engineering aspect because there's a concern. We should talk about it in council. But, okay.
I think that's
Think about
good.
one thing. If I could suggest one thing for the future, just to think about. I did a lot of work before a couple of boards, and they had an interesting approach. And I'm not sure I liked it, but it works two ways. I know that a lot of times we get something before us, and there's a lot of in-depth that has to be done that, you know, maybe falls apart, maybe doesn't. And there are some boards, zoning and planning, where they would do it, I guess, the way sometimes judges will do it. They'll assign it to one person to do the deep background or to really understand it. And that sort of becomes a person who's on the board, the quote unquote expert for that application. Because I used to go out, the Hamptons do that, and East Hampton and Southampton do that. And you go out there, and the minute you start getting questioned, you realize, okay, that's the person. It's like arguing an appeal. That's the judge who's got the cases. It doesn't make anyone else not, but we sort of rotate them around and split them up so that everybody sort of gets a handle on checking the building department file, checking this. It sort of lets us get ahead. It simplifies things, I think, and it brings it out. Think about it, because I was thinking it has some real nice advantages to it, because a lot of the questions that we pose sometimes are, how is this? How have they done this? What is the building department records? And this way, somebody here gets involved and looks at everything and says, okay, the survey is no good, or whatever. You know, I don't mind doing some of it, but I think about
I
it.
think that's a good idea, but I think if we're going to do something like that, what we also need to do, and because I know this is done in places where for every application, 2 members of the board on a
Right.
5-member board are appointed as the committee to go view the property.
Great,
And
fine.
they go out so that you have 2 members, not just 1 member giving their opinion. You have 2
Good point.
members, not more, so you don't have a quorum. And the 2 members go to each property. And if they need to make an appointment with the owner because they need to get to the back, and they do that. And that's something, you know, periodically some members go, periodically don't. Some members just look around the outside. I know it's what I do. I just look at the outside, but
Right.
sometimes you really need to get onto the property. And I
Right.
think that would be really good if we had
Thank
2
you.
members of the board
I think that's a very
designated
excellent point,
for
Robin.
each
Thank you.
application to go and view the site. A rotating, you know, everybody gets to
Right.
do, you know, everybody has to do some. It's just part of the responsibility.
I think it's great. I really do. I just think sometimes we get bottled up in questions and in comments and in thought processes and deliberations or at the hearings that we really, it's like, well, you know, if we had looked at it, if we had thought this through. And so, and it's a lot to do, all of them. And I think it would help build a correct record. And Charlie, if there's any problems with that, let me know. And Greta and Meg, let me know what you think. And maybe after the next meeting, I sort of like that idea.
Yeah,
Because
well,
I think it's fair to the applicant.
We had talked a while back about somebody or two, or somebody going to the property And I think it's a terrific suggestion because you can't see everything. I mean, usually you can't see much of anything, because a lot of it
Well,
isn't
I mean,
that
I
material.
I agree. Listen, I want to just say one thing. When we brought up the Walton property, the fact that I know that property just makes me like, yeah, like, duh. I mean, go look at that and tell me, what does it comply with? I think it's not non-conforming. I think it's non-compliant. And I don't mean you could pick a section. It doesn't. I mean, when I moved here, literally, I told you guys this. I literally went up to the owner one day, and he was a former ball player at the I guess, to the Jets. I think we were talking because I was doing work with him, and it was like we were talking about things, and I just said, "Man, how did you figure this one out?" And he said, "Because it's a very cool place, but it's like you're on an island. It's not an island technically." But so be it. All right, I'll give that some thought and bounce something around with everybody and clear it through Charlie. And good. And I said we'll try to keep the hearings lighter because I think we do our best work. And I think this thing that, Megan also discussed then afterwards today on the input, I like that. I think it accomplishes more, not just for the applicants, but for our mission, if you will. So anyway, any thoughts other than a motion to adjourn? Or you can push the button that says leave the meeting, and that constitutes a motion. And
I think that ends it all for everyone.
there you go. And thank you. Listen, on the applications, can we assign the numbers to them when they come in or
Yeah,
something?
I asked that. I have been asking that for like over a
It's
year.
a real pain in the rear.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go back to that. I think it got nixed halfway through. Some had them, some didn't. So I think we'll have to. I'm going to be away for a few days, so I think February might be a hard time to give another person to start that. So I might have to start that mid-February if that's okay.
Also, what about secret categorization? Is that happening?
I just need to be advised on that. I don't always know them, so I would need the advisement of someone like Ashley to let me know that.
We'll get you the stuff.
And Brittany, can I ask you a village question? This is post meeting. Because you very nicely looked for special permits when we were asking for Toyota, and sometimes it's hard for you to find them. And I know when it says that within 60 days, we're supposed to sign them and file them with the village clerk. Because I was sort of like, okay, well, where are they filed? There must be some place.
Yeah.
And
so
I wonder, why are they not?
I don't know about the old ones. Apparently there was an offsite location, if I'm understanding, years ago. So 2015, when I was looking for those, were very hard to find. I do reach out to the clerk for that. Now I upload them on mine. I upload them to a program, Municity. Everybody can access it. And the clerk does store them, but the old ones, it's hard to say.
Well, there used
to be very good, especially special permits.
Yeah.
That governs the operations and how do you know what it was for or not when somebody else moves in or it's 3 years.
Yeah, it was like those resolutions for the restaurants. Those were harder to come by than I thought they'd be. And unfortunately, my records don't go.
Somebody in the village I know has Betty Ann's contact information.
I do.
And I know one of the problems after she left was nobody seemed to ever want to contact her in the village.
I talked to her before I started, actually. I've had many conversations with her.
Yes, so can you ask her? Yes, but prior people have not been willing to do that, which is why we've been.
Is Ann Malavet around still?
I'm sorry?
Do you know Ann Malavet?
I don't know.
She was Betty's predecessor. That's who I worked with years ago. She was, the only thing happened with her was we once went till 1:30 in the morning. And she said, that's it. 10 o'clock time comes, I'm out.
But Brittany, can you ask Betty Ann if she may have, I mean, you used to be able to ask Betty Ann and she could find you all those applications. So the question is, how did Betty Ann do that?
How did she track them down? Yeah.
Yes. And maybe you can ask her how she did it.
I'll find out.
All right. And who's going to second the motion that wasn't made? Oh,
I second it.
All right. So that's a motion and a second. We'll let you do both. I'll do the second for adjournment.
Thank you.
Had a good trip and a happy New Year to everybody. And I hope
everybody stay safe.
Brittany, you're doing all right, everybody? You're doing okay? Everybody here with their health and everything, because that's important. I got to tell you.
Yes.
This is wildfire out there, as we all know, unfortunately. But it's been, I haven't been to the office. I go in twice a week, but I have to tell you, we used to joke about it. And it's like, oh, I'm not going to be in next week. I've got, then this one's not going to be, and I'm, what's going on? But it seems like for most of us, if it happens, I mean, I do take a test, but at least the vaccine, people are okay. But it's just amazing how it is. And so
Getting a
be
lot
well.
of extra time with my kids.
That's right. Yeah, you've also had that, Charlie. That's true.
A lot of extra time.
Well, it's tough. It's really changed things. I mean, when you talk about going places and going out or traveling, it's just really, and it's we've all become sort of homebodies. At least I have. And although I am going to go skiing next week, so if I don't get my break of
Enjoy.
legs, yeah, I hope to. All right, everybody, stay
Thank you,
safe,
everybody.
stay
Thank you,
well.
guys.